Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men with power want? More power.
My name is luca-zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcast, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
We're not afraid.
Here we go, guys. Another Sunday, another show. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on KTOX 1340 AM and on United States.FM network. This world is getting crazier and crazier. And at the same time, I say it's exciting to live in this reality, because I believe we are making history, or at least history it is in the happening. Don't get me wrong. I wish we'd have to face this. I wish we were living like an ideal world. But, I really realized that after all, maybe there is not an ideal world. I realized that the struggle between tyranny and freedom, between the good and evil, has been since ever, since the creation of humanity. So nothing new. The only different things are going to be the players, but the pretty much this sort of let's say combination of energies, good against evil, is something that's been going forever. Now, the purpose of this show, as I said, it is not to entertain, but try to learn from each other, try to get inspiration from each other, because I really believe we need everybody out there. And when I say we need everybody for what? We need everybody to get back our basic rights of human beings as individuals, exactly the opposite of what they're trying to push on us, this collectivist sort of utopia that for me is it is a nightmare. So I like when I find on the internet, and in this case on Facebook, like-minded people that not only they believe in the same things that we believe, or I believe, at least speaking for myself, but also they know how to articulate it, and they know how to express themselves probably in a much better way than this guy from Italy that barely can speak English sometimes. So I'm able today to bring you a very interesting gentleman. His name is Robert McGee, and it is a kind of a very interesting guy. First of all, he's not a guy, he's a man, but let's say he has a very interesting background. He's a book author, but he's also much more than that. And there is a book specifically that I really like to talk about a little bit, and I believe that it's something connected to what's going on right now in our country. But let me bring the gentleman in, and he can tell us a little bit more about himself. His name is Robert McGee. Robert, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. Before we go ahead and we talk about your book, give us a little bit about your professional background, because you're kind of a multi-talent person, from professor to attorney, CPA. Give us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I started off as an accounting major as an undergraduate, and I thought that was boring, so I became an economics major. But then after I got out of school, I started working in accounting, so I went back to school and got a CPA and passed the CPA exam. I got a PhD in accounting. I actually have 13 doctorates.
Wow.
From the United States and 4 European countries. I did them all part-time while I was working full-time.
Wow.
I have 2 doctorates in law, a JD and a PhD. I'm a licensed attorney in New York. I'm a licensed CPA in Ohio. I used to be a tax attorney in Manhattan and northern New Jersey. I've also been teaching in a variety of universities here and there. I'm currently at Fayetteville State University. I was at Seton Hall University in New Jersey for 18 years and Florida International University and a few others. I teach mostly accounting, but sometimes I teach economics because a few of my doctorates are in economics as well. I've published 58 nonfiction books and about 720 articles, something like that. I've recently started publishing novels. Starting in 2004, my first novel came out, and I have a few novellas as well. And I also compete in Taekwondo tournaments. Last June, I competed for the World Championship and got 3 silver medals.
Wow.
which means I got beat,
I know,
I compete in the 60 to 99-year-old category, so I'm competing against old, slow people. So, but I still got beat. I got 3 silver medals, so there's always room for improvement.
I agree. But, I'm very exciting because also another purpose of this show is to show that, we as a free human beings, at least when we are free, freedom is the biggest maneuver to accomplish our dreams, to unleash our potential. And that's what I think is beautiful for me about this country, at least what used to be beautiful. I remember I came to America in 1998, okay? It wasn't perfect, don't get me wrong. Already went through a process of different from what we used to be. But for me, coming from Europe, coming from Italy, just the opportunities, just to think all the things I wanted to do, I was able to do, and it's amazing, and I feel that type of sense of almost urgency in you, like I had, to try to use this time in the best way you can, this physical time we've been given on this life to do beautiful things, to learn, to share, to produce. So this is exciting. I'm glad to have met you, and thank you. I wanted to thank you again. Maybe I never really did. To have, and I don't know how, but we became friends on Facebook, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you again for the invitation.
Perfect.
When part of what I did when I was working as an accountant and an attorney and stuff, and even now I still go abroad to give lectures, but I've been to over 40 countries. I've worked or lectured in over 30, and whenever I'm there, I try to get a little feel for the country. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, the United States is still the best country on earth.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's going downhill.
Yeah,
and some other countries are getting better each year. We seem to be getting worse. We're moving toward collectivism. They're moving toward free markets. And I don't know where I would go if I had to escape, because America is still a good country. It's just going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and it's sad because you're right, it's still the best country, but the problem is that the rest of the world sucks, I don't want to feel better just because the rest is already down to the bottom. We are coming to a point, if we don't stop this trend, this is completely now from a soft tyranny, we're coming down to a complete hard tyranny. And even from a point of view of business, as a person who want to be an entrepreneur, was trying to start to create. I mean, now we have much more, beside the taxation and beside, of course, all the different things now, the attitude, you didn't build that, that's right there, shows you if the man acting as a president tell us that, imagine what's behind. And we are coming to a point, also the red tape, all the regulations, it's sad. It's very sad because, I'm telling you, when I started my business in 1998 here, 1999, I still have opportunities here, but I see how things are changing so fast that it's not even unbelievable to think what could happen 20 years from now or less. Now, I like a lot of your posts. First of all, I start to see my Facebook friends, because I don't want to say that I don't want to have a dialogue. I don't want to have, engaging conversation about differences of opinions. I like that. But honestly, when I choose my Facebook friends, I want to feel that they are my friends and we get along on many issues. And for sure, there's some fundamental issues that I cannot compromise. One of that is I'm an individual and I'm not going to give up my individual rights for a collectivist mantra. And I found one time a beautiful post of one of my favorite authors, Ayn Rand, that says there is no difference between communism and socialism except in the means of achieving the same ultimate end. Communism proposes to enslave man by force. Socialism by vote. It is merely the difference between murder and suicide. This is Ayn Rand. So I really like that post and made me think, that's the type of people I want to be associated. How do you see right now, you as a man born in America, grew up in America, try always to create with your own, how do you see when you were a younger man or you were a boy, how America changed in the last 30, 40 years? How can you compare? And when you think really the critical moments, when you start to see those changes, because there are always some critical moments I think that we can remember. What do you think?
Well, I remember in my youth, I felt very free. I used to have a 22 caliber rifle, one-shot bolt action. I used to be able to walk down the street with that, no problem. And I lived sort of in the suburbs, but it was close to the country. And we could just walk around with guns. We didn't need government permission to do that. Then in the late 60s, early 70s, Pennsylvania, where I lived at the time, and some other states, they started having these requirements. You have to ask government permission to carry a gun, which I thought that was one thing that really turned me off about what's going on in America. That the Second Amendment says we have the right to keep and bear arms, period, shall not be infringed. And now in some places, like when I lived in New Jersey, I tried to get a gun permit. I had to wait 6 months. There's something in the New Jersey Constitution that says you shouldn't have to wait more than 30 days, but the local police just refused to process my application. And you have to get a permit for each gun. At least that was the case in New Jersey in the 1970s. It's probably even worse now.
Oh yeah, now it's probably the worst state in which New York, New Jersey. I think it's also rated worse than California. Believe it or not, I mean it's a complete travesty. And, and don't get me wrong, guns. It's Second Amendment. It's very important, but it's coming to a point now that it's all connected. It's almost part of a logic. When you have a government that does not want to allow you to exercise your Second Amendment, you see that the rest of the bureaucracy, the rest of the regulations, and the rest also of slavery, almost I want to call it doesn't stop just with the Second Amendment. Also with your business, also how you can use your money that you earn, and of course your private property. I mean, now there is an infringement on everything. For example, how do you look at the fact that now government can tell us without even legislation that we cannot use anymore, or at least they try to outlaw like this wood stove, like the EPA by not even executive order, just by regulation, they said that all the wood stoves now they're supposed to be outlawed, at least illegal. Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about that particular one, but I've heard that in some places they will arrest you or fine you if you burn leaves in your front yard or backyard.
Yeah.
And I think in Canada they're outlawing wood fireplaces. I read about that.
Yeah. And even
the EPA can just go in and confiscate your land, shut it down. If you're a farmer and there's a snail darter on your property, you can't farm because you might dig up a snail darter. And there's no kind of due process. They don't really reimburse you for your property loss.
Yeah.
And all of those regulations should be declared unconstitutional because only Congress can pass laws, but yet all these federal agencies pass the equivalent of laws anyway. And it seems more and more, thousands of pages every year are added to regulations. And John Stossel had a program about that where he showed all the regulations that were passed over the last few years. It's
exactly
stacks and stacks.
And this is my point, this is exactly why I wanted to talk about your book and what's coming right now, what's already here. The point is, yes, as the country, as America, we have a constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, we have the Declaration of Independence, and we have the men and women that before us, they sacrificed everything they had to give us this sort of a contract between the government and the people. And the Constitution, we know very well, is to constrain the government, not to constrain the people. But what if, in this case, the government is going rogue and does not want to comply anymore? And this is not an opinion. We can read the Constitution, we can see what happened the last at least 30, 40 years, not just with Obama. Congress and presidents, they are completely laughing at us with their own actions. And especially the last 7 years, we see it's been a coup. What type of final solution do we have when the watchers, nobody can anymore, even the people that are supposed to watch the watchers, people that are supposed to take care of, stop this act of tyranny, they're completely sold out or gone. Look at the military. The military now has been completely eviscerated, has been neutered. We have hundreds of top brass being fired by Obama. And we have now agencies that the top part of the agencies, they are completely following the orders. And we know that these orders, they are completely unconstitutional. What are we going to do as people? What is our final solution? What can we do?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think it was Plato or maybe Aristotle, one of those guys. I think it was Plato who said that the democracy is the last step before tyranny. Mm-hmm. And he studied the constitutions of hundreds of Grecian and other republics, and he saw a trend. There's like 6 types of government, and democracy comes right before tyranny. Because when you get a majority of the people who can vote themselves free benefits like free welfare and free this, food stamps, all that stuff, and they can make more doing that than they can working, then you start having class conflicts, the rich against the poor and the whole gender thing and, all that so-called equality. I mean, you should have equality under the law, but there's no such thing as equality of opportunity. Mm-hmm. People who work harder and the people who are smarter should get more because they're smarter and they work harder. And the only way to make people equal is to chop off the people at the top. You can't really raise the people at the bottom, especially if they don't want to work to begin with, or if they don't have the ability. So, things are going in the wrong direction. Hopefully we can reverse it through the electoral process, that when you look at the kind of bozos that are going up for election these days, I mean, Bernie Sanders, 74-year-old socialist, he spent his honeymoon in Moscow. I mean, he could be president. He's ahead of Hillary at the moment, and the younger generation especially likes him. But that's because they're going to government schools and they're getting all this propaganda. And I teach at a government school. Fayetteville State University is a North Carolina state institution, and I'm in the business school. We're not so bad. But in arts and sciences, they have a lot of Marxists who are proud of being Marxists.
Wow.
It's not just Fayetteville State. I've been at other schools where it's the same way. When I was at Seton Hall University, for instance, the dean we had at the time just refused to hire any heterosexual white males. There were a couple of years there where, and not just the dean of the business school, but the person who was president at the time, he was hiring all kinds of people on the basis of ethnicity and gender, and without regard to ability. Ability was totally secondary. In fact, if you spoke about ability and merit, you were accused of being a racist. Mm-hmm. So that's, and the universities are pumping out the new generation of students, and they're listening to that crap, and they don't hear the opposing views. They're all in favor of diversity as far as ethnicity and gender preferences, but when it comes to having a couple of Republicans in the sociology department, then it's totally off limits. And you can be any kind of Marxist you want to be, or a progressive, which is sort of the same thing. And but you can't really be a conservative Republican, and God forbid you're a libertarian, because then you're racist, a sexist, and everything else in their eyes. And if you call for minimum government, that's a sexist comment or a racist comment, and blah blah blah. And so I don't have to put up with too much of that because I'm in the business school. But I do have meetings where people from arts and sciences are there, and they'll actually correct the speaker sometime if he or she makes some kind of a comment that they're offended by. And they get offended by everything. They even have a term for it now. It's called microaggressions. Mm-hmm. Yes. If you say anything that's even moderately offensive to somebody, they charge you with a microaggression. And in some university systems, the University of California comes to mind, they even have policies about that. No microaggressions. Yeah. Forget about free speech.
Yes.
There's only certain topics you can talk about. Sometimes they have what they call free speech zones, where there's a little place where you can say anything you want. But even then, you get accused of microaggressions. And if you're an untenured professor, you don't go in the free speech zones because the people on the tenure committee might say that he's guilty of microaggressions or something. So,
yes. Robert, let me tell me if you agree with me. I'm a little younger than you are, but I've been seeing this from a bigger. This is not a plan that happens like the last 20 years. This is a long-term plan. And what I see now, it's almost like, they've been waiting for this for a long time. They've been brainwashing generation after generation. And I give you an example. There are for example, former president of Russia, Mr. Khrushchev, okay? I mean, not that long ago, when talking about a few decades ago, he said, we cannot expect the American people to jump from capitalism to communism, but we can assist their elected leaders in giving them small doses of socialism until they awaken one day to find they have communism. And look, for example, people like Sanders, or people even on the other side, because many Republicans, they're phony Republicans, and they're just, masquerade, and they're working for the same type of socialism. So now, after 40, 50, 60 years, in my humble opinion, since for sure since the creation of the private Federal Reserve with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, one of the goals of Karl Marx to create a central bank that is going to start to impose on free human beings this sort of taxation system that we know very well that it's a scam, because all it does, this income tax, it pays the interest on the debt on this entity called the Federal Reserve. So since then, they've been working for sure to brainwash our generation after generation. Now we are living in a nightmare, as you said. We have young people, they have no idea what we're supposed to be as Americans, as human beings, but they just memorize the mantra, safe space and socialism is good. But then when you ask one of these people what defines socialism, they don't even know what it is. So I think it's very important to go back to try to share information, educate people. And that's why I think what you're doing, even just as educator, as a professor, even of course it's just relegated to economy or whatever you're doing, it is very important to have people like you in the education system. Question, do you have any type of, situation where normally with other professors or other teachers, you look like a little bit like out of place, considering what is the average now professor is in this America of 2016?
Yeah, well, a lot of professors are out of touch with the marketplace. In fact, there's sort of an inside joke within business schools that the reason we have so many of these professors who think that way is because they can't make it on the outside. The university is sort of like an insulated cocoon where, people who can't make it on the outside, who don't have marketable skills, will still find a place to work and to get an income. That's, again, I'm hammering social science or arts and sciences, but there are some socialists in the business school too, a few, but universities attract a certain kind of people for both professors and administrators. You can be a university administrator and be very incompetent and not get fired. Mm-hmm. And, if things don't work out, they just try to increase the budget or something. And there's not much of a penalty for being incompetent. Wow. And if you're tenured, it's pretty hard to get fired. Not impossible. But again, if you're Marxist in arts and sciences, they'll just push you through the system and you'll get tenured. But if you try to point out the errors of socialism, then first of all, a lot of universities won't hire you. Mm-hmm. And they can tell in advance if you're a free market person because you have to give them a list of your publications.
Yeah, exactly.
And, once they see what journals you get published in and the titles of your articles and books, they'll say, well, we really need someone like this. We need another person to push the progressive agenda or something.
Okay, interesting. Now, let's go one second. I never really had a chance to ask you, first of all, your official website, if you can share it with the listeners, because there is a lot of interesting things there among the books. What is your website, please?
Yes, it's robert-w-mcgee.com. That's ROBERTWMCGEE.com.
And I see here in your bio, beside the different things that you've done as a professional, you have published 58 non-fiction books and more than 700 articles in countless disciplines. I mean, do you sleep at night? Because I tell you, I'm trying to work on normally I write songs, but I'm trying to work on my first 2 books, and it seems like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to find time during the day. When did you start writing books, since we go now into the books situation?
Well, my first article was in 1975. I was working as a tax accountant in industry at the time, and the guy who was sitting at the desk next to me published an article in a tax journal, mm-hmm. and he was always coming to me to ask questions about things. And so I figured, wow, if he can publish an article, maybe I'll give it a try.
Okay.
And so I wrote an article, submitted it, and it was accepted, and then I thought, wow, this must be a mistake. So I wrote another article just to see if I could get it published. And they accepted that one, too.
Wow, interesting.
And so that's how I got started. Then I started writing books after that, and I started getting a reputation where publishers would come to me and ask if I could write something for them.
Wow.
And that's a really good position to be in if you're an author, because otherwise you have to go scrambling, begging, and pleading with these publishers to publish something with practically no royalties and stuff.
Yeah.
But luckily, I'm not at that stage anymore where they're now coming to me. So.
You tell me something, because, normally I'm in the publishing business of music. I'm just now starting a new journey. It's not even. It's more for personal things. I want to share something. I can almost put, into something concrete, something that can be shared with others, knowledge, something I learned. So it's more manual. But the idea now that with the internet, especially, and new outlets like, for example, Amazon and the digital formats, is really that necessary anymore to have a publisher when you can, after all, reach directly your readers through the internet. How do you see the revolution? Is there a revolution that you can notice as an author with the new technology of the internet?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. In book publishing, there are 6 major publishers. I mean, there are hundreds or thousands of little ones, but there are 6 major publishers, and they feel threatened because people like me are cutting into their markets. In fact, there's a really, really famous author, Barry Eisler. He writes thrillers. I've read almost everything that he's written. And he had a deal with one of the big 6, and they offered him $500,000 for his next 2 books, and he turned it down, and he decided to go independent.
Wow.
Because he could make more doing it himself. Those traditional publishers, first of all, they go through your book and they re-edit everything you've written. You don't have any kind of editorial control. And some of those editors are politically correct, You can't say certain things. You can't use certain words. So you have to give up your freedom in order to get a Big 6 contract, usually. And then they don't pay that much in royalties compared to what you could get on the Internet. Like, for instance, my ebooks, Amazon pays 70% for ebooks. My royalties on the ebooks are 70%. And that's standard.
Yep.
You could even negotiate for more if you're Barry Eisler. And if I went with a traditional publisher, the ebook royalties would be 25%.
Yes.
And unless you're a really best-selling author, you're going to have to do all the marketing yourself anyway. So the publishing company doesn't give you much assistance in the way of publishing. And the nice thing about this revolution, and it really is a revolution in publishing, is that anybody who has something to say, or even if they don't have anything to say, they can get it published. Of course, the downside of that is there's a lot of crap on Amazon.com.
Yes.
And, they have these free books that you can download, and, I downloaded a few of those and I read them, and I could see why they're free. They're crap for the most part. But there's some excellent stuff on there, too.
Yes.
And now with ebooks, you can get a really, really good book for $2.99 or $5.99 or something.
Yes.
Instead of $20 or $30 for a hardcover. And I'm sort of running out of shelf space here at home. I have a bunch of books and shelves and things, and the wife's always complaining. Every time I buy a book, I have to sneak it in so she doesn't see it, But with ebooks, they don't take up any space, and they're a lot cheaper, $2.99 or $5.99 instead of $20 or $30. So I can afford to buy even more books, and she doesn't even know about it because they're on my iPad.
That's true. True. One thing I agree with you. I like ebooks a lot, and I think it's powerful because you can download the ebook in 1 second, okay? And it's going to be much more direct. But at the same time, I tell you, I have the same problem of yours. I'm running out of space. I love books. 2 things I really enjoy in life, it's books and guns, and I'm running out of space for both, but especially for books. But I tell you, even I like ebooks for that idea. I don't know. It's something still I'm attached to the paper. I can bring it with me. I can, bring it in a way that is more personal. I don't know. But I agree with you. It's much more powerful to spread the message, the information through the digital format. Now, talking about books, your book, I was pretty fascinated about the title and also about the synopsis, the little summary of the book. I didn't read the book, and I want to buy it now. Probably I want to buy the Kindle. It's easy. It's called Justifiable Homicide, Political Thriller. Tell us a little bit about what is about this book, and then I'll tell you why I was kind of captivated about your story. Give us a little bit the short story of the book.
Okay. Well, I'd like to read the synopsis. It's only 4.5 lines. That pretty well summarizes it.
Yes.
And it took me a few months to get this. I kept editing. So I'll just read it. It's 4.5 lines. It says, when does the killing of political leaders become morally justifiable? Killing the Hitlers, Stalins, and Pol Pots of the world is easy to justify. Murderous tyrants need to be killed. But what if our leaders are merely idiots, or perhaps corrupt, petty tyrants who aren't in the same league as Hitler, Stalin, or Pol Pot? How much damage can we allow them to do? How many of our rights can we allow them to take away? before killing them becomes justifiable homicide. And that's what the book is about. It's 129,000 words.
Wow.
It's a group of Miami patriots, so to speak, that they decide that some politicians and other non-politicians have crossed the line and that they've taken away too many of our rights and it's time to get back. And since the system is broke down, they go through a series of targeted assassinations to kill all these people. But they can't decide who they should put on the list, what the criteria should be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how evil do they have to be? And so they start fighting among themselves. And I try to introduce as much conflict as possible. And in fact, when I was learning how to write novels, I took a course on how to write novels, and the person who taught the course said that if you don't have conflict in a chapter, it's not a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to have some kind of conflict. Either between the people versus some politician or between the members of this group. And so I try to keep it rolling going forward that way so that people won't want to keep turning the pages.
Wow, no, I'm captivated just from the synopsis, I'm telling you. Unfortunately, this is not anymore. I mean, of course, this is a novel just for the listeners and for Homeland Security and NSC that I know listening sometimes, or most of the times. We're talking about a novel here, okay? It's called Freedom of Speech.
It's entertainment.
Okay, entertainment.
But not a set of guidelines for how to do it.
Yeah, but Robert, unfortunately, we're living in a new America now, ending with a K, not anymore with C. And I'm sure you're familiar about the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, the clause of indefinite detention. Now, technically, the government or somebody in the government, directly from the president's office, for sure, they can declare any one of us terrorist. That we know is a big word. You know, had to disagree with the government. And just because suspected, with no due process, no trial, we can be detained, indefinite detained, and use the military against us. They are now also the latest executive order and also piece of legislation from the Senate. They pretty much authorize completely the use of military on U.S. soil too. So, you know, it's not more a game. This is not a game. Even for people like, let's say you're writing a book, it is a book, is a novel, and maybe now nothing is going to happen. I'm sure everything's fine. But I wouldn't be surprised in the near future, like we were saying before, because people may feel offended, or maybe they can say for national security, or maybe because you may give ideas to terrorists, I wouldn't be surprised they will start to try to rewrite the First Amendment. And books like yours, I hope I to be wrong, they will try to ban them, or to somehow to destroy them, or to try to find a way to give them to the public. What do you think? Is something so impossible as a scenario?
Oh, no, it's not impossible at all. Yeah, some things I say in the book are highly offensive to people, and then I want some of the things I say to be highly offensive to some people. And this has been translated into several languages, and my German translator told me there's certain things I couldn't say in Germany because that would be considered offensive to some people, and I could actually be arrested if I were in Germany for saying some of the things.
Exactly.
You know, it's all about freedom and stuff. And it's like that in some other countries, too. Certain things you can't say. If you criticize certain groups, you can be fined or even imprisoned. France is another country like that.
Yep.
And England is another one. One of those talk show hosts was it Levin or Savage? One of those guys, he's been banned from Britain because of something he said. I don't know what he said.
Savage was Mike Savage, you know. But you don't need to say much. I mean, think about it. You know, in Italy just last year, there was a publisher who was sentenced to 6 months in jail, okay? Because he reprinted a book called The Protocols of Zion, okay? The people, you know, may believe or not, whatever. It's a book. You can look at that any way you want it. And he was sued by the synagogue of Turin or whatever. And he has to pay a big fine. And I think he had to do also some jail time. I mean, think about it for a book. And I read the book. I have 2 copies on my, my library. And he said, very honestly, there is not really nothing that you should think about it that is terrible. It's not like I say, let's go and kill somebody. This is just a book. Amazing. And you know very well, people like, for example, Brigitte Bardot in France, just because she wrote a letter to the editor denouncing the Muslim invasion. Very polite letter. She was sentenced to pay a very hefty fine. Otherwise, she has to go to jail. So I see more and more that's what they're trying to do to America now. And are you familiar, of course, that Judge Scalia, they found him dead? And
with a pillow over his face. That's sort of interesting. You'd think that they'd at least do an autopsy, but who's preventing that, I'm wondering,
And that's why, since you have a mind that is not just a mind of a man, that, of course, I think you really use your brain to try to learn, and you're not a stupid guy. I mean, you got all these degrees. You're a smart man, and on top, you write these type of books. I was going to ask you, honestly, from your experience, from your guts, also don't you think this is something really terrible happened here? Something never happened before. I mean, I've been here just 18 years. You were born here. You know more about what's going on. How many times happened that we have a Supreme Court justice found them close to the southern border with Mexico, and without any type of escort? We know normally they have always the Secret Service or U.S. Marshal around these federal judges, and we found them in such a strange situation with a pillow on his face, and they bring him straight from the place where they found him dead, straight to the mortuary. They cremate him, and it's over. I mean, this is like completely wrong. I mean, what do you think really is happening here?
Well, it looks like there's a cover-up. Again, ever since the Internet, I read stuff on the Internet, and I hesitate to believe anything anymore, because there's so much
disinformation too,
incorrect information there.
Yes.
But the facts are agreed on that they found him with a pillow over his head, his face, and that enough should be cause for at least an autopsy. And the fact that it wasn't conducted raises a lot of questions, a lot of issues, like, who doesn't want the autopsy and who has the authority and why isn't anyone doing anything? All of those things. And he was killed at a critical time, if he was killed. It's, he's written some opinions that haven't been issued yet, and therefore they have no effect. Mm-hmm. And he came out against some big environmental regulation that would have practically killed or semi-killed one of Obama's environmental things. I forget the details.
Yeah, the EPA.
But now that opinion's no good because it wasn't issued.
Yes, the EPA, was by executive order and by regulation. The EPA was pretty much completely setting new rules for standards for our economy, for our basic life as Americans, and he was part of this bringing it down, Mr. Judge Scalia, and many other things, about also things like the illegal aliens executive orders of Mr. Obama, and of course the Second Amendment. I mean, this man, he was still keeping the balance of what America used to be, at least most of it. Now, as you remember, when Obama, before the election, at least when he just got elected, he wanted to change, a final change, how to change this country. And I tell you, I really believe now we are very close to the final chapter of this soap opera. That is a dramatic soap opera, because if we're gonna have a different judge, even the Supreme Court is gonna be completely controlled by the elite. You know that they will try to do legally, at least to tell that it's gonna be legal to completely destroy piece by piece all the foundations of our inalienable rights. So I'm concerned. What do you think? Don't you think this is like some sort of a long-term coup? We've been invaded, we've been conquered, and the enemy right now, it's not at our gates, but it's inside the gates. Am I too extreme if I say that, or maybe you can share this?
Oh, no. I mean, if you look at history, most empires collapse from within. That they were weakened. Like the Roman Empire is one good example. The various Caesars gave the people bread and circuses to keep them fed and entertained. And they took control of the Senate of Rome and the various emperors, and other empires have collapsed. The Inca Empire of Peru, for instance, they turned socialist, and then all of a sudden they disappeared because nobody wanted to produce. Everyone just wanted to consume. And a lot of times empires, or maybe even all the time, or almost all the time, empires collapse from within. They're weakened first, and then at some point there's a tipping point, and the bad guys take over.
You are also an economist. I mean, you know about economics, and what according to your guts, according to your experience, and the data that you're probably reading, going through, what do you think is going to happen? At least what's happening right now in 2016 to our global and more specifically to our America economy? I mean, I smell, and I'm not an expert like you are. I'm just a regular guy. I try to read the news and try to interpret it with my brain. I really think we are on the verge of something so big that is going to be bringing us back probably to the Depression. Am I too extreme or I'm crazy? What do you think? After all, you are the guy that studied all this stuff.
Well, I've been expecting it since the 1970s. From things I've been reading, economists would say that, we're on the brink of a collapse, and it hasn't happened yet, but I think it's just a matter of time, because you look at our budget, we can't just spend $1 trillion a year more than what we take in without having bad things happen. And as you mentioned, most of our taxes go to pay the interest on the debt, and even that isn't enough, so we have to create money, print money through the Federal Reserve, an extra $1 trillion a year more or less, and nobody even knows what the full deficit is because some things are off balance sheet, like Social Security, for instance. How much do we really owe on that? Depends on how long people live, and they're living longer, there are fewer people putting money into the system. It's only a question of time before it goes bankrupt unless they just print more money to fund it or something. But when they do that, whenever the Fed prints money, it takes away the purchasing power from whatever money we have in our pockets or in the bank, the hidden form of taxation. And if interest rates rise, then we're going to be paying more than 100% of our tax payments just for interest. And of course, one solution is to just declare national bankruptcy, so we're not going to pay off that debt.
Yeah,
And
would it be
that's
nice?
a radical solution, but that would get rid of that problem. It would cause some other problems, though. It would ripple through the economy.
And I want your opinion. You're a CPA guy, and probably maybe it's not good for your business if I tell you what I'm telling you now, but I know also you're a person who cares about America, and you know a lot of things that probably many people do not know. Did you ever heard about a documentary that I was able to watch probably 8 years ago or so? It's called American From Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo. Did you ever heard about that?
Yeah, I've heard of the book, and I read the summary, but I haven't actually read the book.
It's a DVD. It's American From Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo. It's, for me, was one of the most powerful DVDs by this former Hollywood director. He was pretty famous. He did several movies. And all I can say, as a person that I know you will appreciate it, please watch this DVD. You can also watch it for free online on Google. You can find it, American From Freedom to Fascism. And the point is, when we find out really what's behind this Federal Reserve, what's behind the idea that now we are forced to pay a tax on our income as individuals, that honestly, before 1913, we didn't have to. Because you know very well, before 1913, America had the sovereign power to print their own money, and we didn't need to go to a cartel of banks, that is a private corporation anyway, with shareholders, and I think it's chartered in Delaware, but regardless, that every time they print or they digitalize that number, automatically becomes $1 of debt, and we had to pay that debt with our work, real collateral. So the point is, we could go back to be free human beings, or at least pretty much close to anything like freedom on this planet could be, that we don't need to work anymore for the king, and now it's called the Federal Reserve. So even when they want to implement social programs, that we can talk about that if they are right or not, but at least we don't need to beg money from a private entity that is going to charge us the interest. Because I really believe what they're doing here, the politicians, they are working for the bankers, they're working with the bankers, and they want to max out the credit card, and every time they create a war or they create a new debt, that's more enrichment and more slavery for us and more enrichment for them, for the bankers. Am I too extreme on this conclusion? Maybe I'm too something. What do you think?
Well, I think you're headed in the right direction, but a lot of politicians don't even know who they're really working for. That's the thing, There's a saying in Washington that in order to get along, you have to go along. And in order to keep their job and keep getting reelected, they just go along. And Lindsey Graham's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He calls himself a Republican, but nobody else calls him a Republican, pretty much. And Congress is filled with those people.
Yeah.
That, the Republicans have been sort of in charge of at least one house of Congress ever since Obama got elected, or 2 years after he got elected. And they haven't put the brakes on any of this stuff. They passed just about everything he wanted. And
Exactly.
Mitch McConnell's another pathetic example of a senator that, he goes along with everything. Now he's thinking of maybe supporting Obama's appointment to the next Supreme Court vacancy, maybe, even though Obama hasn't said who that's going to be. But, in order to get along, you have to go along. That's the philosophy, and certainly the banking system is involved. The one thing that really irks me is that the Federal Reserve Board has been in existence since 1913, and they've never had an audit. Mm-hmm. If that ever happened to a publicly traded company, the corporate officers would have gone to jail in 1914 or 1915.
Exactly.
Because we require annual audits for any publicly traded company, but the Federal Reserve Board isn't publicly traded. It's private, sort of. The president nominates the various board members, and they have 14-year terms and so forth. But they've never been audited, and even members of Congress, they can't get a majority to push through a bill that says they should be audited. No, why do they vote against it? That's the thing, what are they trying to hide? Are they all on the take? And Rand Paul wasn't on the take because he even sponsored a bill to audit the Fed, and his father, Ron Paul, also wants to audit the Fed. And Ted Cruz said he wanted to audit the Fed, but then when it came up for the vote, he was absent, so...
Exactly.
I don't know if that's because his wife was working for Goldman Sachs or if he was just busy. I don't know.
Well, there's Cruz, is working for Goldman Sachs. For what I heard, it's easy to find out. By the way, there's not much to it's pretty much out there. But you're right. There is only really, really few politicians who will try to expose this scam, this cancer called Federal Reserve. I say something, regardless if. Of course, we want to audit it because it's something that we should have always transparency. But the idea, even the existent, why not U.S. government? Why should we go to beg to a private corporation to print something that's supposed to be our own right as a free nation and to print money without paying the interest to somebody else? I mean, after all, this is a complete giving away our sovereign powers, and enslaving us. That's pretty much the situation. I really think that would be stopping that problem. That would be really killing the monster at the heart, and we had the chance to take back this country back. But now the rest of the world is the same. Now let me tell you something. I'm fascinated about your bio, and speaking about all these people, like the Federal Reserve and some sort of a secret government. I see that you've been working as at least you as a consultant. You'll be having clients, including the United States Agency for International Development, World Bank, and also the Central Intelligence Agency. I don't know if you can disclose exactly what type of consultant, but I'm pretty fascinated about this type of gigs that you got. I mean, working for the CIA is not everybody can do that. Can I ask you, what did you do for them?
Well, I can tell you what I did for them. Yeah, in fact, the reason I put all that stuff in my bio, it's true, by the way. I did business with all of those people. But if you're a novelist trying to sell political thrillers, it's always good if you worked for the CIA, especially, or the World Bank, or African Development Bank, or USAID. And I did something for all of them, not as an employee, but as an independent consultant. And the one that everybody's interested in is the CIA, actually. What happened was one time, not many years ago, but a few years ago, I got a call from someone who said they were from the CIA, and it turned out that they were. And they read an article that I wrote about something, and they were having a conference somewhere in the metropolitan D.C. area, and they wanted me to present the results of my findings.
Wow.
And they paid me, and they gave me a 1099 form at the end of the year.
Wow.
And that was the extent of my involvement with the CIA.
That's pretty exciting, though. I mean, they read your work. That's pretty exciting. And I'm telling you, I'm sure they're reading all your books because they get ideas sometimes from authors like you. Trust me.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, but I mean, I did that one little gig for them. It was maybe 75-minute speech, maybe 60-minute speech, where I summarized the result of one of the papers that I wrote. Yeah. It's available on the internet, by the way.
Wow, and
that's how they found it. They read it on the internet.
Excellent.
And so that's it. So I can say that I was a consultant with CIA, but it was only that one gig.
Doesn't matter.
It was a 1099 form, not a W-2. So I was never an employee.
It is. And what's about World
Bank?
Bank?
It looks great on the back of a novel that it looks great in my bio for my novel. So
it is true. It is true. I mean, it is true. Not everybody can say that. Listen, what's about the World Bank? I'm very fascinated about the World Bank too. That's part of what's going on here. What did you do for them, if I can ask you?
Well, I can summarize the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and USAID. They all have these accounting reform projects all over the world. And like in Armenia and Bosnia, I took a sabbatical from my teaching job. For Armenia, I was there for 13 months. In Bosnia, I was there for 13 months working as a consultant to USAID. Again, they gave me a 1099 form, not a W-2. I was an independent contractor. And what I did was I helped the finance ministry try to convert their country to international financial reporting standards. Because after the collapse of the Soviet Union and when the Berlin Wall started coming down, all these countries in the former Soviet bloc, the 15 Soviet republics and the Central Eastern European Soviet bloc, they all wanted to convert to some kind of a Western accounting system. And the system that came out of Moscow in 1930 was what they were working with, and it's a sort of inferior system. It's basically just bookkeeping. And so USAID had a sort of turnkey program where they just go into these countries and they teach a curriculum about international accounting standards. And they were looking for people to teach those courses. And so I went over there and taught some of the courses. I helped reform the curriculums in all the universities in Armenia and Bosnia as part of those USAID things. And I helped the finance ministries, and I helped them form an accounting association because they didn't really have associations under the Soviet system because that would be chipping away at the monopoly of the Communist Party, you know. Yeah. So all those private associations had been destroyed by communism, and USAID wanted to create private sector organizations, similar to the American Institute of CPAs kind of thing. They wanted CPA clones.
Wow.
And that's what I did. It was nothing subversive.
No, it's great.
And, the World Bank, I gave lectures about accounting, and the African Development Bank, I gave lectures about accounting. So it was nothing evil. I was just being an accounting professor. But it looks really great on my bio. As long as I don't go into the details that I was just an accounting professor.
I think it's very exciting. I tell you, it's very interesting life you have, and I'm glad that you're able to put also all this knowledge and you're thinking through your books. And by the way, right now while I'm talking, I'm on Amazon right now. I'm putting my shopping cart, Justifiable Homicide. And it's really exciting because I like to learn. And one thing I tell you, I never really went to school speaking the English language, and I'm sure I needed more, but the only way I was able to learn a little bit was by reading books, and I like to read interesting books. Listen, I want to give you the floor before we close. I want to give you 2 minutes. Whatever you want to say, you got the floor, okay? Robert, go ahead.
Oh, wow, 2 minutes to sell my books.
Whatever you want to say.
Well, my best book, I think, is Justifiable Homicide, a political thriller. You can get that for $2.99 on Amazon if you take the ebook version, or it's about $16 for the paperback version. That's my first novel. It's the best one in terms of pure political philosophy and current events, things like that. And I have some spin-offs. Some of them are already in print. Some of them I'm still working on. A novelette, which is like a little novel, Annie and the Senator. That's another political thriller. It's about Annie Chan. It's the first in a series where she is like a self-made woman, and she rises from the streets of Bangkok to become the president of one of the largest banks in Miami. And some senator finds out about her past. She had a sort of murky past, and he threatens to expose her unless she pays him $1 million bribe. And she has character, plus she doesn't want to do it. So she tries to find a way to kill the senator, but she's never killed anyone before. And so she has to sort of start from square one, so to speak. And I can't really tell you how it comes out because I would be giving it away. But let's just say I think you'll love the last 2 pages.
Very
and
good.
It's the first in the series. Once she learns how to kill, and she's an immigrant who became tremendously pro-American, you know, the freedom and the whole thing, an immigrant who loves America more than most Americans. She's decided to continue to do public service work now that she knows how to kill people and she can identify who needs to be killed, kind of thing.
Wow. Very exciting. Listen, I want to thank you again for your time and for sharing your knowledge, to sharing your story. Give us one more time before we close your website so people can find out more about you, please.
Okay. Yeah, again, the website is robert-w-mcgee.com. That's MCGEE. there's a little drop-down menu there where you can find my books and a little bio and so forth. And I plan to add more books as I go along. I'd like to do 2 or 3 or 4 books a year,
Wow.
shorter novels that don't take so long to read through. So
Perfect.
that's my goal anyway.
Very good. Okay, guys, don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Then we're going for hour number 2. We're going to talk about guns. And then hour number 3, we're going to have some very interesting news, something very dramatic. It's happening to many of us, and we need to talk straight about it, okay? So let me tell you, this show, even if it's just a little humble radio show, unfortunately, we're all in danger right now. But we cannot cower up. We need to stand up. This is the time to stand up together as Americans. Don't go away. Talk to you soon.
The United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Now we are going to get America back. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights. We the people, we're not afraid to die. Now is the time to remind them what's wrong, what's right. And now is the time to get back our country, to get back our lives. They steal, then they lie, they side with the other side. They forgot that we can fight. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights. We the people, we're not afraid to die. They try to sell our country, they try to sell our rights. Love for America, no, you can't buy. Amnesty my ass, get back in the line. We are Americans, don't even try. We're ready to fight, we're not afraid to die. Traitors, you can run but you can't hide. Of the people, by the people.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on United States .fm network. Here we go, second hour with luca-zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on KTOX 1340 AM and on United States .fm network. This is the hour about guns. When I say guns, it's not just we're talking about the newest guns or, what type of guns, because at the end of the day, that's something that I don't care. All I care is that you have at least a rifle, at least a gun, at least a shotgun, and whatever you like, it's fine with me. My goal, though, is talk about the practical sense of the Second Amendment. First of all, well, to know the right, and more important, to follow what's going on in our country, America, this United States of America, because we're always under assault. And how to fight back legally, how to fight back to try to defend our rights. That's number one. And then, of course, I like to bring you some practical things that we can enjoy for learning. And it's always a learning process. Of course, this is an humble radio show. This is not like a didactical video, some real-life experience instructor. But I always try to bring you people who do this for living, or at least professionally. Last Sunday, I brought you this professional Omari Broussard, this professional instructor, Navy veteran, and today I will bring you another guest that he's been shooting all his life, especially in competition with rifles. So that's pretty much the idea. Now, I want to remind you also that a lot of things are happening. The show is being recorded right now, but we already talked during the first hour about what happened to Justice Antonin Scalia. And our Second Amendment, definitely, it was under attack before. Now it's going to be even more under attack. People may say, after all, it's just a Supreme Court justice. You know what? Let's not forget the final transformation of America. Obama, before the election, the first elections, he wanted to transform this country. And see now how far we went in just 7 years. If really we understand that after the Supreme Court will be completely unbalanced, and we're already unbalanced. I mean, look what happened with Obamacare. But even worse now when Justice Scalia is gone. We're going to face something that this country probably never faced. And don't get me wrong, for me at the end of the day, Supreme Court judge is just a man. And not because he said that I have to jump, I will jump. Don't forget, during the past, in our history, the Supreme Court said that slavery was legal. Doesn't mean that I have to comply with that. But still, that's another little piece of the puzzle that they will try to put us in a very awkward situation, very dangerous situation. They will start to make our Second Amendment no more a real right, but probably a privilege, like they're trying to do. So we need to really armor up. We need to organize now. We need to prepare now in every evenience. First of all, we need to find out what's going on, how to stop it, and also how to prepare. So that's the purpose of the second hour. Now, let me go to my guest. It's an incredible gentleman that I never met him in person, but I'm so glad that through this radio show, I said I have the opportunity to meet incredible people from around the world. And even I don't know him in person, I consider him a friend, and he's a great asset to the Patriot movement to share what he knows, because that's the idea. We need to learn from each other. His name is Tim Siewert. Tim, are you there?
Yes, Luca. How are you?
Very good, very good. And, as I was listening, as you probably were listening to me ranting during the first part of the show, we are facing right now as a country something that is going to be even more dangerous since under this mysterious cause of death of Antonin Scalia, Justice Scalia, I'm sure that they will try to completely rewrite the Second Amendment, at least through the Supreme Court. So what do you think about this situation? What is your personal input about the death, mysterious death, since we have no autopsy and we have some strange data regarding how this justice died? They found him after all with a pillow on his face. What do you think? What is your input?
Well, clearly, yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I have one of my hobbies is studying history, and clearly the circumstances surrounding Justice Scalia's death are suspicious. Now, there was something that you were saying that I've been trying to address repeatedly, both on social media and on my website, and that is people for a long time have been referring to the Bill of Rights as amendments. Specifically, they always want to refer to the Second Amendment. The Bill of Rights were not amendments. I want all your listeners to understand this. And they are articles of an overall document that was integral to the Constitution. Many of the men who were directly involved with the writing of the Constitution, specifically Thomas Jefferson and also Patrick Henry, James Madison, they vehemently opposed the passage of the Constitution without the Bill of Rights. They said that either you have the Bill of Rights with the Constitution or we don't support at all, because you have to understand something. At the Philadelphia Convention of 1787, which the Constitution was the ultimate end product, the Philadelphia Convention of 1787 was not convened to write the Constitution. Most people have been, for lack of a better term, dumbed down about this. The Philadelphia Convention of 1787 was convened to amend the Articles of Confederation. And that convention was convened with the specific purpose of addressing several issues that had arisen between 1783 and 1787 when the convention was convened. One of those issues was interstate commerce. There was no provision in the Articles of Confederation for lack of a better term, regulating interstate commerce. And not that I personally believe that interstate commerce should even be regulated, because I believe it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
But another issue was that here's something else that many people don't know, is that George Washington was not the first president of the United States.
Exactly.
There were 7 presidents before George Washington. And according to the Articles of Confederation, the term for president was only 1 year. And that was something else that the convention was really divided about this. And a lot of people didn't even want this issue addressed, was that there were many people who maintained, and most of them were what they referred to as Federalists back then. And the Democratic Party eventually was formed out of the Federalist Party. There were 2 original parties in 1783, the Federalists and the Republicans.
Yes.
And the Federalists were the ones that were more for government.
Yes,
okay?
Centralized government.
And
centralized government they wanted.
Exactly. And the Federalists kept on saying, well, we can't get anything done because the president is only in term for 1 year. We can't get anything done. In my mind, that was a good thing.
Of course. Now look what they're doing. They're changing everything.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Well, anyway, the Bill of Rights are articles. They are integral to the Constitution, and as such, see, this has been part of the brainwashing, the dumbing down of the population of this country, because you start calling those articles amendments, and immediately they think that, oh, well, an amendment can be changed because we did it before. We, first passed the 16th Amendment, which made alcohol illegal, and then we passed the 18th Amendment, which again made it illegal, only regulated.
You're
okay?
right. This is
so
very important.
In people's mind,
yes. Go ahead, please.
Right. So in people's minds, an amendment can be changed or done away with, but an article, one of the articles, and that pertains to all 10 articles of the Bill of Rights.
Exactly.
You know that less than 1% of the people in this country can actually enumerate the 5 rights guaranteed by the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
No, I'm sure.
Less than 1%.
I see.
But everybody, and a lot of people that are so gung-ho about the second article, you confront them. You ask them, what are the 5 rights guaranteed by the First Amendment? And they start hemming and hawing around because they can't name them.
Exactly.
I was at a union meeting. I mean, for your listeners who don't know, I'm a union carpenter. I've been a union carpenter for 25 years. I've been a carpenter for almost 40 years, but I wasn't in the union initially. I went to a union meeting several years ago, and it was in October, and they had several political candidates there hawking votes at the union meeting. So one of the candidates actually, I'm starting to crack myself up. He actually asked for questions from the audience, and it was a packed house. which is unusual for my union meetings. I mean, normally there's the same 30 or 40 guys there, even though we have over 1,000 members in my union. But anyway, this guy asked if there were any questions, because he had specifically stated that he was pro-Second Amendment, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I raised my hand immediately, and the president called on me. So I stood up, and I asked him point blank, I said, You just told everybody here that you're pro-Second Amendment. I was wondering if you could enumerate the 5 rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. And I sat down, and there was this dead silence, Luca. You could have heard a pin drop, because he didn't know. And here's this guy running for political office who's going to supposedly swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and he doesn't even know what he's swear an oath to. I've used that a number of times with political candidates, and invariably they do not know the answer.
Tim.
So anyway,
1 second only, Tim. Let me get a little bit back to the situation. First of all, since we are here, you mention it. I always try to use this show as an opportunity to learn, because maybe they are driving and say, you know what are these 5 points he's talking about? Remind it to us, please. I think it would be a good opportunity to share this information. Go ahead. The First Amendment, what you were talking about, what this guy that running for office wasn't able to tell to everybody.
The First Amendment specifically states that Congress shall pass no law respecting any religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to petition the government for redress of grievances, and the right to peaceably assemble.
Perfect.
That is almost verbatim the First Amendment.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry, the first article.
Yes, First Amendment,
it's almost verbatim. And I'm not reading it either.
Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Exactly. And I want to add something very important. You said something very important. I'm glad, many people say, this is the hour about guns. What is he talking about now about this amendment and right? It is very important, because the First Amendment, or the first enumerated rights, the way I like to call them, is something that cannot be changed, cannot be moved. They are rights that belong to us as human beings since the moment that we were born. Now, after the 10th Amendment, of course, they started to make it look like, after all, yes, they can bring it on and remove it, like the prohibition or the 16th Amendment, different things. But the idea is that, for sure, our First Amendment, there is no way that, for me, a Supreme Court justice can start to rewrite it, because that's the way we have it. It's us, with us as a human being. Same story for the Second Amendment, or Bill of Rights. So that's the point, and that's important, because I really believe in the near future what they're trying to do now, since they will control, maybe, hopefully not, the Supreme Court courts, they will try to start to say, okay, we were able to, modify after all the Prohibition Amendment or other amendments, like how many times the president can run for office or things like that. Now we can eventually also work on your Second Amendment. So anyway, back to the little bit closer to our Second Amendment. Now, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, are you aware that there was a very important case, a ruling, in Maryland, assault weapon case, that it really made a great impact. There was this was from the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, ruled that the lower court judge in Colby against Maryland must apply the standard of strict scrutiny in reviewing the case about Maryland's assault weapon ban. So bottom line was, we have a victory about what they call assault weapon, and laws banning assault weapons in Maryland and in other states with anti-gun legislators have so far been upheld when lower court judges, they were pretty much getting along with that. But now we have a very big victory. Are you familiar with this Maryland case?
No, I'm not. But here's the other thing. You bring up that term, assault weapons. It kind of,
It's a joke. I mean,
It is. It's a joke. It's as if
there's a mind control.
It makes me feel the same. It makes me feel the same way as when somebody scrapes their fingernails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
And I've been experiencing this. I've been witnessing this since the 60s. I mean, there was this big furor back in the 60s about, quote, Saturday night specials. And my point is, bringing that up, is that they have been continually, ever since the 60s, they've been trying to categorize different types of firearms. Ultimately, and then they try to vilify these, quote, types of firearms, and then they try to cast people who own these types of firearms in a negative light, and it's all the media and the politicians that are in concert with the media, and ultimately anything. And then we're not talking just about firearms here. Any firearm is an assault weapon, but here again, so is a hammer and a car, for crying out loud. You can assault somebody with a car, you can assault somebody with a hammer, you can assault somebody with a 2x4 piece of lumber.
Tim,
it's all bullshit.
Exactly. But look, for example, now in England, they already went for the completely banning all weapons in the hands of civilians. Now they are also applying, is not even more advocating, they're trying to pass complete knife control. Knife, the same butcher knife that you can use for, cooking or whatever. Now they want to legislate and make those illegal too. So the goal doesn't end with a gun or with a rifle. That's the beginning. They want us completely disarmed. Yeah. Like, look in history, I wasn't there, you weren't there, but, even it's not my real background history, but there was the revolts of the Pikes, the Irish people tried to revolt against the king of England, or the same story with the people from Scotland. I mean, they're always trying to ban out of the hands of the civilians any type of weapon, okay? So much that the peasants or the subjects, they had to fight with pitchforks. I mean, that's where we are coming down to wood, to sticks. So that's exactly. So that's what they want. Nothing changes. Nothing changes with history. But now the reality is that they want to create this reality even in America. So my goal is try to, first of all, talk sense with people that want to listen, because sometimes today we may have better opportunities than maybe a few years ago. Even people from what they call themselves the left, they start to realize that this tyranny doesn't apply just to people that disagree with this administration, but it's applying to everybody. I mean, at this point, when they will deny freedom of speech, they will deny it to everybody. When people start to disappear because the government can label you a domestic terrorist, it's a big word, all you have to do is disagree with them. You can have no more due process, and you can be indefinitely detained. I think every American, regardless if you're left or right, you should be concerned that we have that unalienable right to defend ourselves. And yes, and I would like to remind that people like Bernie Sanders, that I played last Sunday during the first hour, that is supposed to be somebody that somehow is for some sort of a Second Amendment, he got it all wrong. Because I don't have any of my rifles are for hunting. And he wants for people to have just rifles for sport purposes. I never was about sport, the Second Amendment. Now, give us a little bit about your background, because, many listeners may already know you, but I would like to give a couple words, just briefly. You're a man that you had the opportunity to, not just to train with weapons since you were a young man, but also to be a veteran. Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Well, my first introduction to formal marksmanship instruction, and I was 11, and it was at Boy Scout summer camp, and then I just went from there. I was in high school ROTC for 3 years, and we had marksmanship training there, and then I went into the Marine Corps. That's when I truly, as far as I'm concerned, truly learned and became a trained rifleman when I was in the Marine Corps. which was many, many years ago. And then I started shooting competitively in 1980, NRA high-power rifle competition.
And also you have a website and you are a book author. So please give your website and give us the titles of your books.
Yes, I have a website. It's 1776men.com. It's an online free magazine. And I've written 2 books about reloading. They're available on Amazon, Reloading the Basics and Reloading Beyond the Basics. The first one, Reloading the Basics, covers everything that somebody who knows nothing about reloading needs to know to get started. I go into equipment, safety. There's also plans in there how to build a drone reloading bench that is small enough to even fit in an apartment. And for the person who may not be mechanically inclined, if they're interested, I can even build one and ship one to you. A reloading bench, that is. But anyway, I also go into the basics of load testing in the first book, and in the second book has 14 chapters. There's a chapter on how to convert Berdan fine brass to boxer prime, because all brass is reloadable.
Yes.
All empty brass is reloadable. It doesn't matter if it's boxer primed or Berdan primed. And, for those of your listeners who do not understand the difference, a boxer prime case has one hole in the middle of the primer pocket, and a Berdan prime case has 2 holes. And in the chapter in my second book, I go into detail how to convert those cases into boxer primes so they can be reloadable. I have a complete chapter on creating your own cartridge, wildcatting. I also have a chapter on how barrels are made, because I've made rifle barrels. I worked for a custom barrel maker many years ago.
Wow.
And
Very
I'm
good.
also,
this is
beyond being a carpenter with almost 40 years experience, I also am a trained machinist. I'm not just some guy who worked in a machine shop or a barrel shop for a while. I went to school for a year and a half.
Wow, interesting.
Studied,
that's very important skill.
shop.
Very important skills. I think, in every community we should have at least a reload center. I'm talking about, citizens reload centers. And of course, a machinist, somebody that can create out of metal parts. Because if we're going to find out, some emergency, for example, they can create some sort of restrictions in importations, or also limit the productivity. With martial law, they would probably shut down most of the factories, or at least they would monitor them and no more available to civilians. We should have in every neighborhood. Go ahead.
They've already shut down almost all the factories. But here's something else about machining. And I have a few articles on my website about machining, and I also have an article on my website about welding. I'm not certified, but I can weld.
Perfect.
Anyway.
Let me ask you something. Can I ask you something? I want to focus a little bit on what we're trying to do here today. I wanted to, something I never really touched. I'm sure everybody, we talk a lot of times, at least during with my guests, different things about shooting or training, a mindset, things like that. One thing I think is very important to keep your rifle in perfect condition must be, of course, properly cleaned. Okay, it's very important. No matter which rifle, which gun, sooner or later you must clean it. Now we have 2 basic platforms, at least for the American rifles. One is the M1A or M14 military version, and then we have, of course, also the AR-15/M16 if we're talking about the military version. Now, let's see if we can start, for example, especially with the M1A or M1 Garand, that's pretty much similar beside the magazine. If we can find out how people should for basic cleaning. And of course, this is a radio show, so we're not going to have visual. There are a lot of YouTubes out there, but maybe you can give us some basic tips how to take care of our M1A or M14 in a way that we can keep it nicely and don't make mistakes. Like, for example, we could make easy mistakes, especially if we don't clean it with the right tools in the right way. We can ruin, for example, the crown of the barrel. Give us some basic tips how people can take care of the main rifle, like an M1A.
Well, first of all, whenever you're cleaning an M1A or an M1 Garand, you have, when you clean the barrel, you have to do it from the muzzle end, and consequently, you should use a bore guide. There are a few commercial bore guides out there available for both the M1 Garand and M1A/M14. Unfortunately, with the bore guides that are designed to be used with the M1A, you can still damage the crown because none of them actually guide the rod and it through the flash suppressor to the muzzle of the barrel. Now, the flash suppressor is about 3 inches long, and this is the reason why it just so happens that I have designed my own bore guide for that because the M1A happens to be my favorite rifle. And a while back, about a year or so ago, I was using, now you can use an empty 12 gauge shell for a bore guide for an M1A. I mean, an empty shell fits right over the flash suppressor, and all you have to do is drill out the primer pocket of the shotgun shell with a 5/16 drill. Now, you can use that, and for a long time, that's what I used. Wow. But I noticed a number of years ago that even when you use that, and all the other, I like to say this, all the other commercial bore guides for the M1A, they're basically the same principle. It's basically just a piece of plastic that fits over the flash suppressor with a 5/16 hole drilled in the middle that you shove the rod through. Now, unfortunately, like I said, you still got 3 inches of distance inside the flash suppressor where the rod, the end of the rod, can hit the crown of the barrel. And I have seen crowns on M1As damaged because of this. Because a lot of people, first of all, I don't recommend using any kind of cleaning rod except for a brass cleaning rod. There's a lot of cleaning rods out there that are made out of steel. A lot of them are made out of stainless steel, and I do not recommend those because you can really damage. Not only can you damage the crown, but you can damage the bore also because you have the situation of steel on steel. You don't want that. You always want your cleaning rod to be a softer material than steel, and that's why I recommend. And all I ever use. I have 2 kinds of cleaning rods. I have brass ones and I have graphite ones, and that's all I use. I do not own a steel cleaning rod. So I designed my own bore guide for the M1A, and I want to start making them available for sale for a very reasonable price on my website.
Interesting.
That's one of the things I want to offer on my website in the near future, besides my books. Among the other shooting products that I've been working on that I want to offer on my website also. So I always recommend, even if you are cleaning your rifle or your firearm from the breech, I still recommend using a bore guide because you can damage, not only can you damage the crown, but you can damage the throat or the chamber in the same way if you don't use a bore guide when you're cleaning the barrel. So that's the first thing.
Okay, very interesting. I like the idea of this shotgun shot shell. This is something I didn't know. I like it. Keep going, please.
Well, that's a makeshift. It's real. I mean, it's basically free. Okay, but you can do a lot better. And like I said, that's the reason why I designed my bore guide that actually fits inside the flash suppressor, and it's and it lines up right with the barrel, so there is no way you can damage the crown of your barrel, because a good barrel for an M1A can run you $350 to $400.
Yep.
If you want to buy a top line barrel from Jack Krieger, another personal friend of mine, lives here in Germantown, Wisconsin, about an hour north of me. That's where his shop is. I've known Jack for over 25 years, along with Boots Obermeyer, who is a close personal friend of mine. Anyway, Boots is another custom barrel maker. He's been making barrels since 1962, I think. Anyway, so that's the first thing you want to do with an M1 Garand or an M1A. You want to use a bore guide. And then the second thing is, if you don't, generally speaking, when you clean M1 Garand or an M1A, you want to take the action out of the stock. If you're going to give a good cleaning, you want to take the action out of the stock. You want to take the hop rod off. You want to take the hop rod spring off, and you want to disassemble the gas. You want to take the gas piston out of the gas cylinder on the M1A. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is if all you're going to do is clean the barrel on an M1A, you want to turn it upside down so that the trigger group is pointing up. Yes. When you clean it. That way when you run the rod down the barrel and it goes into the open breech, you don't have cleaning solution and crap falling into the action of your rifle.
Exactly.
So you turn it upside down. There is another little gizmo you can get that it's like a little trough that fits in the action of either a Garand or an M1A. It's a little plastic gizmo you can get that also prevents that. But even if you use one of those, you should still turn the action upside down, because here's the other thing: the gas port on both the M1A and the Garand is always in the bottom of the barrel.
Yes.
First of all, it's supposed to be located in a groove, and that's another thing people don't understand. Like there are commercial barrels out there available for both. Well, they're available also for the AR, but for the M1A, the Garand, the AR, and that is one thing you really have to pay attention to, and that's just something I brought out in my book in one of the chapters, is that the hole for the gas port in the barrel has to be located in a groove. It can't be located like half in a groove, half in a land, or half in a land. It has to be located in the groove and preferably centered. And that's the reason why I recommend, if you're going to buy an aftermarket barrel for a Garand, any gas gun, any semi-automatic gas-operated rifle, to get one from Jack Krieger, because he has all the fixturing all set up, and he makes these barrels on a daily basis. I mean, and they're premium barrels, and they always have the hole located in the correct place in the groove.
Very good.
So,
what type of?
Let
me have a question.
That's the other thing. The reason why you turn it upside down is so you don't have crap.
Yes.
When you're cleaning the barrel, falling through the gas port and into the gas system.
Yes, Tim, I have a question. Normally, everybody chooses their little products, whatever, but what is your average product that you use to clean administrative cleans? I'm not talking about deep cleanings, but, after you think it's time to, after you shoot, you want to clean your barrel, what type of products do you use, the average product you use?
I still use Hoppies.
Okay.
Hoppy's number 9. I mean, first of all, I don't recommend using any cleaning product, like any solvent that has ammonia with it, just using that product alone, because ammonia is very corrosive to steel. And it doesn't matter whether it's chrome moly steel or stainless. It's very corrosive. So you can use cleaning solutions, cleaning solvents that have ammonia in them, but you need to immediately afterwards use some non-ammonia, some solvent that does not contain ammonia, like Hoppy's, and that's the reason why I like Hoppy's, because it doesn't contain ammonia, never has, and it works.
Good.
I mean, it's been working for 60 years or better, and so even if you use like some kind of really aggressive solvent like Tipton's or Sweet 762, that's one that's popular for use with Garans and 1As. That has a lot of ammonia in it. And so you need to follow that up with some Hoppy's to get all that ammonia out of your barrel right away.
Okay, so Hoppy number 9 is a good product. I use that too. Now, to grease the parts, especially the M1 Garand or M14, we have some good parts to use grease, at least, when the weather is not extremely cold. What type of, you just use regular military-grade grease or any other special product that you like?
Oh, yeah, I use some real special products. I use plain old axle grease you get at the auto parts store.
Okay. No, sometimes this is good because sometimes,
This plain old white lithium grease, that's all you need. You don't need anything special. And here's the other thing. I have an article, or I did. I'm going to, I don't know how much longer it's going to be on the website. It's been on for quite a while about gun maintenance. And I use two things, two lubricants specifically. And number one is like I just said, lithium-based white axle grease. And you want to put that in like the channel where the bolt rides back and forth, and put a little bit on the op rod where it rides back and forth, on bearing where you have steel-on-steel bearing surfaces. Those are the main places where you want to use grease. Otherwise, I use Marvel Mystery Oil, and you can get a quart bottle of Marvel Mystery Oil at Walmart for like $2.89.
Wow!
And a quart bottle will last you a long time. And here's the thing. Marvel Mystery Oil is a petroleum-based product, but it has a number of additives in it that has rust inhibitors in it, and it also has some additives in it that make it adhere to steel. And oil and grease are steel's best friend. People should understand this.
Now,
and all barrels are made out of steel. Even if there's some barrels out there that they're fiber, they're called fiber wound barrels. They still have a steel liner. That's where the rifling is.
Yes.
So all barrels are made out of steel.
Very good, very good. This is exactly the type of information I wanted to share. Simple things, but sometimes we're looking for the big answers, but we have basic things that we can find at any store. But they are the most important things to take care of our rifles. And we need to stock up also on these items, because now maybe they're easy to find, but you never know. Whatever rifle you have, you need to be taking care. Now, final thing before I need to let you go. Now most of the stocks, they are probably made of plastic or synthetic. That's no problem. But if you have like some M1 Garand or M14, still with different type of wood, but wood stocks, what is the product that you like to use to keep them nice and protected?
Well, if you have a match grade M1A, generally speaking, a lot of those, the action is bedded to the stock. And if you've got a wood stock, then you need to pay attention to any kind of finish that you might be putting in the stock. That make sure it doesn't come in contact with the part with the bedding material in the stock. I have several rifles where I finished the stocks myself, and I've used again because, and I'm not afraid to say it, I'm a cheap son of. If there's some easier, cheaper way of doing something, I'm on it. And what I use for a stock finish is teak oil. Now you can go to any kind of paint store and you can buy linseed oil, and you can buy teak oil, and you can buy Danish walnut oil, and all kinds of other stuff. But I found that the teak oil is the best because it's derived from the teak tree. A lot of people, again, because of my carpentry background, I know a lot about woods also. And teak was used back in the old sailing days of hundreds of years ago in the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries, when wooden boats were sailing around the planet. They always used teak for the decks, if they could get it. And the reason why is because teak has the highest oil content of any tree, of any hardwood tree known. It is a very oily wood, and that's the reason why they used teak, and they didn't understand it was because of the oil in the wood, but that's the reason why teak lasted so long on the decks, because the oil, natural oil in the wood, preserved the wood and safeguarded it against the salt atmosphere of the open ocean. And so I use teak oil.
Very
and
good.
You can get a quart can at any paint store for usually around $8, and a quart can will do, I'd say at least a half a dozen stocks, and that's if you put about 3 or 4 coats on each stock.
Wow, excellent. Very good information.
And you just put it on with your finger.
Excellent. Listen, I want you to give one more time your website. Now I need to run some other news, but I appreciate sharing this information. It's very important. Please give your website one more time so people can reach you out or maybe just read your articles. Go ahead.
My website is www.1776men.com.
Perfect. And you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Don't go away, because now, after this little break, I need to talk to you about some other very important news. We are having proofs and photos and evidence of armored vehicle in different parts of the U.S. having license plates from the European community, and especially one is from France. So we will talk about this after the break. Don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and who love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit FreedomLovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really click.
Okay, this is the final part of the second hour. I have the final hour in a few minutes. You will see the final hour, especially the last part. Disturbing breaking news from Oregon with Michael Emery. He has some very strong statements about some people among the patriots. His position, what's going on, what happened. But that's for later. Meanwhile, I want to say something. I want to use the last few minutes of this hour for a warning. I believe something's happening that, we've been talking about that these last few years. We know that we are systematically being invaded. The government is trying to work against the interest, against the rights of us, with the people. But we are coming to a new level. As you can see now, they're on the open. I didn't put out enough information about this very mysterious death of Supreme Court Justice Anthony Scalia. There is a lot going on, a lot of probably you heard already during the week, but just to give you the short story, how you think it's possible that we have a man like Mr. Scalia, Justice Scalia, found dead with a pillow on his face. A man anyway that is one of the few, or was one of the few left pillars of America as we know it. A man who has been opposing Obama's agenda to completely change America. And he stopped Obama's in many of his attempts with his executive orders. Think about it. Think about the timing. I mean, Scalia was one of the strongest opponents against these executive orders, unconstitutional executive orders of Mr. Obama, like, for example, the ones for giving amnesty, de facto amnesty to the illegal aliens, or the one for the EPA, completely fascistic overreach of the EPA regulations, and the Treaty of Paris. I mean, and much, much more. And don't forget his stance for the Second Amendment, what meant Scalia's stance. And don't forget also the Supreme Court of Sheriff Mack, Prince Mack against these United States. They pretty much remember the importance of the sheriff and the role of the sheriff, the county sheriff, and how the federal government has no jurisdiction in our counties unless the sheriff let it happen. Scalia was behind all this. Now it's gone. His body is still there, still warm, and we know that Mr. Obama is already trying to push his agenda to get a new justice court. A new justice to the Supreme Court. And by the way, there is so much more that, it's impossible to believe even we believe that stuff. I mean, normally, very well, supposed to be an autopsy for everybody that is in some sort of a controversial situation, especially when you find them with a pillow on their faces. This is a Supreme Court guy, okay? A guy that is pretty much one of the most important positions in our republic. And they completely, a judge over the phone, without even seeing that, completely give him authorization to say, okay, this is just a natural death, and go straight, escorted by a bunch of police officers, straight to the mortuary and get cremated. And all his fluids were completely disposed. So no evidence. And cui bonus, who's going to benefit all this? I mean, look, think about now, if they can put in this permanent position, in this position of completely authority, a new judge, a Supreme Court judge, that they can start to rewrite our Bill of Rights. Even technically the judges cannot write anything, but you know very well. They think the Supreme Court can decide very important matters. I tell you, I got news for you. I don't care if it's a judge or not. And this is proven already in history. We don't have to follow any unconstitutional law. A judge doesn't give constitutionality to anything. Let's not forget that the Supreme Court in the past declared there was constitutional slavery. Would have you comply with that order or with that law? That's up to you. Everything else against the law of our Constitution and the Bill of Rights, for me, it's just the law of the man. And it's up to us now. But they're coming after us. They're becoming rogue. They're becoming very brazen. They're becoming very, cocky. Look at that. I mean, they released the video of Lavoie being called murdered. Plain view. Now there are more than 160 warrants of people that they may come after any one of us, me included. I mean, I was at the Bundys there. I was a member of the media. I'm proud of what I did. I was there to report the news. I was there also with my political opinion, defended by my First Amendment. I didn't threat anybody, but it doesn't matter. They start to arrest people. And guess what? When they arrest you now, they can put you in indefinite detention, and you don't even anymore any type of due process. Think about it. All these people that have been arrested now, they are there without even bail. Don't you think that sounds like a little bit like the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 with the clause on indefinite detention? These people, as much as you may believe or not, you may agree or not what they've done, They didn't kill anybody. They didn't burn any town. They didn't destroy any property. They were there. Yes, they were occupying. Maybe you can charge it. Of course, you can sentence them, or maybe, you need to try them first with trespassing, whatever, but still, to give no even the opportunity to have a bail and to keep them there in isolation, that shows that we are now political dissidents, and this is very wrong. And for all the people that they think this is good, they deserve it. Guess what? Everybody deserves due process. And more important, now they're coming maybe for the ranchers, maybe they will come now for the patriots, then will come for you, the leftists, if you disagree with anything your government is telling you. So I tell you, we are really coming to a point now, and I tell you, this is bigger than just the Oregon. I believe the Oregon was a distraction, and it is now part of a bigger plan. We need to look at this like a puzzle, the small little parts, and now they start to come all together. The economy is going to crash. We already know. The economy is crashing. We have a big problem with China, but at the same time, I think it's a wrestling match, like with Russia. We are losing the moral ground with Russia, but at the same time, I believe behind the scene, we have this Manchurian candidate in the White House is working with Russia. They want to put us in a war that we cannot win. They want us to lose the war. We already have Chinese troops in New York State the last few months training with us. Meanwhile, we have all this Cold War, almost hot war going on with China in the Chinese Sea, and all these disputes about the islands and Taiwan, and then Syria with Russia. Think about it. They want us to put us into this state of war. Now they have also ISIS. We have already been said by this CIA chief, Mr. Brennan, by the way, by now he's also Muslim. Think about it, John Brennan, CIA director, that ISIS terror is inevitable. It's going to happen. This is out of his own mouth on CNN. Let me play a few seconds. 1 second. This is unbelievable.
The operatives, the material, or whatever else that they need to do, or to incite people to carry out these attacks, clearly. So I believe that their attempts are inevitable. I don't think their successes necessarily are.
U.S. officials tell CNN.
This is from CNN, so they give us the hints. It's inevitable. Then maybe I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to tie up maybe ISIS with the Patriots movement. And at that point, declare martial law. And at that point, they can start to completely go for the gun confiscation. They can go with executive orders. And who's going to challenge them? Nobody, because nobody's left really in the Supreme Court. Maybe there's not even going to be any more in need of Supreme Court when there is martial law. And maybe we're going to have a false flag pretty soon that you're going to start to see, maybe different nukes start to pop out all over the states on some of the strategic locations. After all, we have, according to Router, you can Google it up, in Iraq we have some very sensitive nuclear material missing. They tell you, they don't put it on the front page, but they put it on record. So you know that when the bomb is going to go off somewhere, hey, they told us ISIS was coming after us, so we really now need to be serious and stay behind the president. Maybe we don't even need the next election, because after all, we are right now under war. We are in war. War with whom? Meanwhile, we have 160 warrants for people that did not commit any crime, beside being expressed in the First Amendment. And yes, they are coming for us right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they start to declare martial law. This is just the first type of, warm-up. When martial law happens, they won't come just for the people who attended the Bundys or who went to Oregon. You will start to see a list of long names, a lot of people out there, that they will start to disappear. So all I'm saying now, this is the hour about guns. Say, why are you talking all this? Because let me tell you, maybe I can get you some motivation here. You better start to really get serious with you and your family and your neighbors and your friends and God, if you believe in God. Get together and start to have a plan. Because it may be my last broadcast. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I must be very honest. I may be disappearing too. Let me tell you, I won't comply though. I'm a peaceful man, but I won't follow anybody in any truck. I've done nothing wrong, and I am staying behind. Everything I've done, everything I said, it's on record. I'm here, and I didn't come all the way to America to be a coward and to lick any boots of all these fascists and Nazis and these Obamanoids and these Bernoids and these Bushoids. I'm here as a free human being, as an American. And I'm not going to apologize about anything I said. That's it. So I'm telling you guys, forget about the latest, fanciest gun. Arm yourself, first of all, with education. Know your rights. Start to plan. Learn the skills you need. Then, yes, you need also the tools. Get whatever you think. And organize locally. Don't start to go around the country. You're not a mob for hire. This is not like, the leftist dudes, whatever people, George Soros hiring these protesters. We are here peacefully. We will stand our ground, though, in our communities, in our counties. We organize now. And we will live free. And we won't die. Only God knows that when we're going to die. But our freedom, our soul will be forever. All I want to say is be prepared and be ready now for our number 3. I want to remind you, if you want to support the show, I tell you, this is really getting a lot of energy out of me, a lot of time, and it's not really something that it's fun. I mean, it's fun, but this is a risky business. If you want to support me, you know how to do it. Go to ZannaArt, ZANNAART.com. You can download my songs, buy my CDs, donate, whatever you want to do, get a postcard, do something. Seriously. I appreciate your help. If I'm not worth 99 cents out of one of my songs, I really think, you're a cheap bastard. That's what you are. Anyway, meanwhile, thank you very much for your support. I know many of you pray for me, and I appreciate it. That's very important, too. Okay, ready for our number 3? You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Don't go away.
Wake up.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit FreedomLovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really click.
Here we go, guys. This is luca-zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on KTOX 1340 AM and on United States to the FM network. Our About Love. This week, I would like to focus about Valentine. I would like to focus about beautiful things and love. But I tell you, there is a lot going on in this country, and I need to use this hour a little bit for also very important topics, because we're talking about here really about life or death. We're talking about slavery or, complete freedom, or maybe just a little bit of freedom. The point, we are facing a very sad reality if we don't do something. So I'm going to use this hour also to have callers. People who have something to say. As I said, this is for you. It's an open mic. I do not censor. I let you come here. Just stick to the topics. Let's not talk about football or other stuff. There are other shows doing that. I'm just talking about freedom, love, and guns. Or guns, love, and freedom. I have a friend, a person that has been on my show several times. One of my first listeners since I started it. And he's a great activist. Even sometimes we don't agree on everything. But I tell you, with a lot of things we agree. The man in question, his name is Ronald O'Donnell from California. Ronald, are you there?
Hey, Zanna.
I'm here, Ronald, all for you. I want to give you straight the floor because I know that you have a lot of interesting news, and you can remind to the listeners exactly who you are and you're running for office, and give us some more details of what's going on in your political life.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And again, I want to thank the owners of KTOX Radio for allowing us this platform to go ahead and cross party lines and talk the truth as opposed to being dominated and told what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say. It's one of the very few radio stations in the country that permits this. So thank you. My hat's off to the owners of KTOX, which I understand are Republicans, and here I am a Democrat. But that's okay.
I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea who is. And all I know that on my show, there are no party lines. All we do, we talk about anything.
I just thank them.
But
anyway, here's how ugly it is.
Go ahead.
Here's how ugly politics is, okay? Here in San Bernardino County. This is hard for me to even read, but I'm going to read it. You have to understand the background. I know by January 15th that I have to have my membership fees in for me and anybody that I want to be on the delegate, for the Democratic Party and, the state of California. I have 3. So I get all the checks together and I'm trying to get them to them, since January 1st. Well, actually I was trying to get them to them in December, but they canceled the meeting in December because of the shootings in San Bernardino. They had all these murders that we're not allowed to talk about. And then there were 22 other additional people that were injured with bullet wounds that we're not allowed to talk about because we use the word Islamic, Muslim radicalized terrorism. You're not allowed to say that here in San Bernardino County because they're the major contributors, to the party here. Whether you know it or not, the last, political, event where that we had a party convention was held at the Muslim church. And I objected to that. I said, it shouldn't be in any church. And if you're going to put it in a church, put it in a Catholic church, But they didn't want to respond to that. Well, anyway, so I go and I take my cashier's checks for all my people. And I give them to this one lady. Her name, we're going to call her Dorothy for the moment because I don't want to, she's a young girl out of college, 24, good lady. And I want to put her on a state central committee for the state of California as my delegate. I can appoint 3. She goes in there, she walks in, we can't find anybody, so she says, I said, well, go down to where the guy works. He works down at the radio station, KCAA, and just drop the money off because he's the vice chair of the whole station. The whole Democratic Party, There's no meetings, there's no way to reach anybody. She tried to email, she tried everything. So she went in, and he, stood there, Mark Westwood, and looked at her and said, I can't see you right now, and walked out of the office. That was like January 1st, 2nd, day after New Year's. And then he said, I'll be back. So she sat there for an hour and a half, and then finally she got up and left because he didn't come back. And she emailed me and said, Ron, talked to me. She said, Ron, I had to go to work. I don't mind trying to, do stuff for you, but the guy just walked out on me. I said, okay, maybe he was busy, maybe whatever. How about me and you go back again? Because it's due by the 15th. So we'll get out on the 14th. And I walk in the office. The guy runs into the back room of the office. He didn't get a chance to leave.
Ronald, listen. I have a 1 hour.
Here it is. Here it is. I know.
Give me straight the point.
I want your audience to know.
I know, but we don't have all day. Go ahead, please.
Here, I know, but you need the background.
Go ahead.
Here. All right, so we go back in on the 14th because the dues are due right now. Here it is. He emails me. Your conduct is outrageous. So I will meet your conduct with an equal action. I crumbled up your membership fee checks and threw them out on the front door of the radio station above the mall, 2nd floor.
Wow.
They are somewhere on the mall floor.
Okay, so they throw you out.
Sensitive.
They don't want you in the party. That's the bottom line, correct?
Yeah. They are somewhere on the mall floor.
Wow.
That's why I've been calling you, and I made these attempts to call you.
And why, I know why, but remind us why they don't want you anymore in the Democratic Party. What did you do so sinful?
Because I said I will vote for Trump before I'd ever vote for Hillary. But if it came down to it, I will vote for Trump.
And you know what?
Because I don't want to see that. Did I say that?
Yes.
I don't want to see that woman in the presidential office because she's ruining our country.
You know, I give you credit. I give you credit a lot as a Democrat and also as a party part of the leadership of the Democratic Party in San Bernardino to have the courage to stick with the truth. And I wish more Democrats out there would have the same courage and integrity like you are, because I don't care where you stand in which party. We need to expose evil. We need to expose corruption. We need to expose these oligarchies. I mean, we're talking about two families, the Bushes and the Clintons, that the last 30 years, they've been like...
That's enough for the Bushes. Enough for the Clintons. Goodbye.
Exactly.
They ruined this country.
Exactly.
We need to start over. Young blood, young people. I don't care if they're Democrat, if they're Republican. Young people need to get involved. They destroyed us.
Exactly. No, I give you a lot of credit for that. I tell you, especially, when you are in that party, it's like a club, and they can start to make your life, but you stick to your principles, and I think it's great. Now, what you want to say to the other Democrats, because probably there are a lot of Democrats listening to this. I mean, you want to share anything? I mean, what you want people to do?
I'm filing a formal civil rights discrimination complaint against Mark Westwood with the federal government in federal court.
Wow.
For crumbling up my checks and throwing my membership fees on the front door of the radio station.
Wow.
I may include the radio station in this one.
Wow.
No, I'm not, because they don't know.
Okay.
They just all they know that. And by the way, guess what?
What?
My checks and my money and my membership fees are somewhere on the mall floor. I'm going to tell him, go down and look for them, buddy.
All right. Listen, I'm glad you came out, and I want to hear more stories like that from both parties. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. We need to stick up for what is right. And that's the moment that we're going to win as a country. We need to stop this following the orders from the headquarters. The headquarters are being compromised. They are controlled by the globalists. So listen.
By the way, I want to add the bottom of his letter to me.
Go ahead.
To me, 65-year-old man,
mm-hmm.
You are never, ever to step foot in this radio station again. If you come to my radio station, it's not his, he works there.
Yeah.
I will have you arrested.
Wow. Interesting. Well, listen.
He threatened me with arrest.
I understand.
For dropping off the membership fees.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
The guy was drunk or on drugs or high when he wrote this, and he regrets it. I already know he regrets it.
Or maybe it was exactly what he feels. Listen, all I want to say that this person is welcome to be on the show. If you listen to this broadcast, I would like to have him on the show. I give equal time to everybody, so let them know. Put the show out, and everybody's welcome to be here and share their situations. Listen, Ronald.
Well, I'll let him know that. I'll say if you want to go on and contradict anything Ron says.
Yeah, and I would like
to explain your email to him. I'm reading you his email to him.
Yeah, and I also would like to have you bought at the same time. I can get you bought. You don't need to see each other. I can have you on the phone, so we can work this out. Listen, thank you very much, and please keep us updated with all the developments about this lawsuit, okay?
Yeah, well, it's going to be Ronald James O'Donnell against Mark Westwood.
Okay, and now
for violations of my civil rights.
What is the website people can contact you in case they have any questions, anything going on, also help you out for your campaign? How can they help you?
Yeah, well, I'm on foreclosureammunition.com.
Okay.
That's one word, foreclosureammunition.com.
Very good. Very good. Listen, Ronald, thank you very much for sharing this. I think this is very important. These are vital information because, one moment that we have long-time party members like Ronald O'Donnell, sorry, my brain today is fuming, but we have people like him that have been all life into the Democratic Party, and finally, they say, what, enough is enough. We don't want to hear anymore to follow the orders. We are here following the Constitution, or at least we want to follow integrity. That's the number one thing. We're not going to vote for another corrupted politicians like Hillary Clinton or a Jeb Bush. So that's the story. So listen, thank you very much. And now we go forward. Final hour of this Love, Guns, and Freedom. A lot of things going on, a lot of news. I have more information coming, and don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna.
Trying to kill, they eat off this plate, but all they feel is just hate. They hide in the dark, from within they attack. The enemies within, they look like just you and me. The change our creeds. They swear on something they don't believe, and they want to erase our borders. They want to change our lives. They're here to divide. They're already inside. The enemies within, they look like just you and me. The enemies within, we gotta stop them now, or they will We're not afraid of you, because in God we trust. For America, we are ready to fight. For America, we are ready to die.
Here we go. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Final hour, breaking news. Just to let you know, I'm been trying to record this conversation already at least twice, with Michael Emery, independent journalist, accredited media from the Voice of Idaho in Idaho, but right now is in Oregon. He's been in Oregon since the beginning of this drama with this occupation or refugee occupation, or you want to gonna call it. Anyway, he's still there. And I had a lot of hard time to go through his connection through Skype and through phones. Finally, I was able to get it on. And he has some very important news that I think we need to know. If we believe that everything is over there in Oregon, I believe we're going to have a nice surprise here. And unfortunately now what's happening, it is not over for the rest of us. Anybody of us who is trying to speak up, to have also an opinion, okay, exercising our First Amendment on this matter, about the BLM, about the federal government intrusion, about our Constitution, our individual rights, guess what? Unfortunately, we are all in danger. There are many warrants out there, people that they attended the bandits peacefully, just to protest, or even just members of the media. People have been already arrested. More is going on. But let me get Michael Emery from the Voice of Idaho here directly from Oregon on the air. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I am, and thank you for having me.
Perfect. Please give us I'll give you the floor. Tell us all the updates we should know. For example, what's going on now after the occupation is over? Are there still presence of FBI agents? And if there are still presence, how many you can somehow guess and where they're located?
Well, I was in Idaho getting tags on my car 2 days ago, and I rolled back into Burns. One of the first times I was able to leave the area. And I sitting at Safeway, and I watched a flatbed truck go by with 2 Bearcats. I got it on our live streams if you want to see it on our Ustream, which I can't use YouTube because it scrambles all of our live streams. So in any case, you can check that out on the Voice of Idaho, checking out on our Ustream. Anyways, when I passed the airport, and the Bearcats were going through the back end, they're going into the back way to the Wildlife Resource Center, not through the front by the Narrows. And I noticed that they still had a continuancy down there at the airport. This morning I drove into town. The barricades are removed around the courthouse. There is nothing out there at the airport, and the presence of the FBI you can't see. It's like business as usual. But they've all removed their sources in the middle of the night out to the refuge center. And I'm going to try to get some more information. The problem with this is, because of these attacks, they don't want me to speak. So if anything happens to me, folks, it's because of this. Because I'm the last one standing out here as far as media goes. There has been a discohesion campaign and psyops that we need to learn from. And because of the intuitive nature of patriots, where we can sniff out somebody that may have a precognizance of wanting to do some harm to us, or they have something else, some ulterior motive. The way PSYOPs works is it works through somebody's counsel. So somebody that is working off of ego or is easily manipulated, they maneuver them into positions of trust, okay, and then guide their actions so that they have dissent amongst the ranks and get everybody to infight. And that's what I was trying to find out, like with Rickheimer saying, hey, if you come down here, only come to the resource center and help. If you're outbound security, we don't need your help because of the actions of the PPN not coming directly down there. Anybody that's been in any type of FOBs, forward observation bases, understand that you must have 3-tier security at best, and at least 2-tier with outbound resources for protection, at least for intelligence. That was being destroyed through the whole line, and I was working in the background to try to find out why Rickheimer was saying this, because he's not that smart, and I just couldn't see him being a direct operative.
Now, question,
nor a lot of the other ones.
Michael, who is this guy? Who is this gentleman?
Rickheimer is one of the guys that was working with Ammon Bundy when they first took the wildlife resource area. The meeting that we had the day before the march for the Hammonds, before the resource center was taken, I've got that video up. I think you can find it. Where the only objection that people had on it, on the militia being here and stuff, was that they were concerned about their safety and the actions of the militia because of Rickheimer's statement. He's a little bit of a loose cannon, and we found out that Rickheimer hasn't barely been in any type of active combat patrols. He was a fobbit. He was in the area, but nobody would use him because those kind of guys usually end up getting shot by their own men.
Where is he now?
He's in jail. They arrested him.
So you think maybe just a person with no experience and a big ego, or maybe something more?
No, it was a person with no experience but an ego that he had to protect like he was Mr. Johnny Soldier.
Okay. So now I always want to say, when we mention names of people, I always say, I want to give him the chance to say their side. Unfortunately, now he can't, but whenever he can, he's welcome to be on the show and say his side. That's a fact. Because I wasn't there, and I know you as a reporter. I think you've done a great job, but I always want to be fair to give the other side the opportunity to defend themselves. Now, question is, tell us a little bit more. We heard about there are several warrants, especially also connected to the Bundys. I mean, people that they were there as a journalist, or even people that were there maybe as peaceful protesters. I mean, Pete Santilli right now is in the cage, no bail. And what I find disturbing is the fact that with no previous criminal record, regardless that we may agree or not with his thoughts and with his words, he still has a First Amendment. But the point is he never really did anything harmful to anybody. He may have a big mouth, but that's exactly what is the First Amendment for. Now, we may agree or not with his method, but the point for him to spend now time in jail with no type of bail, what do you think about this?
Well, what I've noticed is there was people through the Oregonian and local people around here that had like this. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but you can see it towards one of his last videos where there was a bunch of media down at the resource center in the Ammon Bundy put out that sign and everything, and then these girls sang. But he was bullhorning this person that was, and I can't remember his name. But this person continually come up there, and he was an operative, and ticked him off. So what they're doing is they're shutting down alternative media, but they use Pete Santilli first. Okay, and I've been out here, but my news agency has been censored so much that the only person I had to get any information out through was with Pete Santilli. I know that right now I've got a big target on me, but I think the only reason they're not coming after me right now is because I've got a lot of friends that I've built weapons for, and they've come to my aid before.
Question is, let's give us a little bit, I mean, what is I know that, but I would like to remind what you used to do, that you have those friends as your professional background. Why you think you're not in jail too? After all, you were a reporter. I follow your job. You were there in Oregon. You're still in Oregon. I know that you were very professional, in my opinion. You didn't take much sides. You were mostly to report the news. But you had also some moments that you were trying to educate, for example, the FBI about the Constitution and things like that. And I think it's something that is very important as a citizen. Maybe as a reporter would be something a little more partial. But why do you think they didn't attack you yet? They didn't put you in the cage?
Well, one of the things is that I've worked undercover, and through that undercover job of 2001, 2002, I whistle-blew on senior individuals in Nashville. And then also I whistle-blew on an armory I built. One of the things that people need to understand is that contractors need weapons. I'm a foreign weapons specialist. I built thousands of weapons for different individuals, and I've hobnobbed through different areas. And if it's a belt-fed machine gun or a cruise serve and you're a Class 2 licensed dealer, you probably know me by first-name basis.
Okay. And I'm sure, listen, Michael, I'm sure that this is okay when you have maybe, an agent or somebody that is a foot soldier, okay? But when the orders come from above, at that point, I don't think that, maybe that's not enough. Because, at this point now we know very well all the orders, they come directly from the top. And there is a long plan of almost entrap the bandits, of course, and everybody that was successful in bringing up what happened at the bandits last year or so. And now we know very well that their plan is trying to get revenge, and more important, to put people in the cages. So I think there's more than just that. Maybe the way you behave, maybe what you said, maybe what you didn't say. What do you think? Or maybe it's still it's still early to speak. Maybe they're going to catch you too. How many warrants do we know that they have out there that we are not allowed even to know the names?
I understand there's 150, somewhere in that general scope, and they're using that as a gun at the heads of all the ranchers. They were asking for aid and support, but the Committee of Safety is not conducting themselves as a Committee of Safety. They're a council, like a city council. The Committee of Safety was formed by founding fathers to protect people and give them immunity so the king's men wouldn't come after them. The same thing is happening here. But I can't call out or ask people to help, or they can't either, if the Committee of Safety doesn't stand up and take the possibility of the hits. This is just the way it is. And also, I'd like to say that there's been a massive psyops that's gone on out here. And I'd like to challenge an individual by the name of Anthony Bosworth to defend himself, because I've exposed some things that I wasn't too comfortable with. And how psyops works is you take people like Rickheimer that is easily manipulated, beware of somebody's counsel, and they take actions that will defeat efforts. And that's called discohesion campaign. And it's classic throughout third world countries, but I watched it play out here as well. And I directly think that there's something to do with Anthony Bosworth and his counsel. And I have reason to say that because I understand how confidential informants work. CIs, I have a CI number, and they tried to destroy me, and my mother-in-law was murdered brutally, trying to make it look like I did it when I had good agents having, with nobody knew it, but them, had me in Boise, Idaho, and a week later, I find out she's murdered and I was a person of interest. Tell you right now, we're dealing with some really sick psychopaths, but these psychologists and stuff know how to spin us. We have seen the enemy, and the enemy is us, because they know how to work us.
What does it mean, CI? Just to be sure everybody understands.
A confidential informant can be the crack girl down the street that's turning evidence to her pimps, all the way to somebody like Hal Turner that did Turner Divers that was working with the skinheads, and he was exposed in Oklahoma on a court case that he was a senior FBI agent.
Wow.
Yes. So if you want to know what PSYOPs is all about, come to me. I'll be able to blow the top off of it, and that is why I have not been able to be directly in the middle of all of this like I should have been from the very start, and they have stirred me away. There was not one time I could meet with Ammon personally and privately, because every time I did, there was people whispering, "Oh, Michael's a Fed. Oh, that's so classic." Look, folks, you're not going to see a direct Fed in most cases because they get sniffed out too quick. But what you are going to see is people like Rickheimer and others that, because of their egos and stuff, they can be manipulated. And probably the reason that nobody would talk to me is because they said I was a Fed. That's what I found out from guys that were looking into me. And they said, "We know you're not a Fed, Michael, but all the guys at the gun dealers and stuff said you were the best on weapons, but be careful of him because he's a Fed." I mean, I'm so sick of that.
Well, maybe that worked out good for you, because at that point you were now able to keep yourself detached but still there as a member of the media. And since you mentioned, of course, every time I mention somebody, I always want to be fair with everybody. Anthony Bosworth, I had him on the show a few times during his arrest in this case on Washington State, when he was carrying an unloaded weapon on what's supposed to be private property, but then we found out there was federal property on the parking lot or there on the parking area. Anthony, I want you on the show. I want you to pretty much give you the opportunity to challenge or even rebuke what you say. And this is exactly why I like to do this show. I want to give everybody the opportunity to expose their ideas and to be defending their ideas and also their positions. So what you say is very important. I think, we need to have an open mind on everything. At the same time, I must be fair. I want to give everybody that we mention, they have the right to defend themselves. I'm glad that I'm going to try to talk to, even today, if I can, to Anthony, because I want to say 2 sentences. And more important, we are here. We need to find out and learn from the mistakes, even if there was just arrogance. And I'm telling you, arrogance can kill you. So it is not something minor, because even just arrogance is something very bad. What happened in Oregon, it has been exactly what the enemy wanted. They wanted to discredit us. They wanted to create losing the minds and hearts of people. They wanted to try to create this bad image. And on top, for me was really no point to go there in the middle of nowhere in this refuge and give an opportunity to the federal government to attack you because you break somehow even just some basic, let's say, trespassing laws, okay? That was a protest that I tell you, I think they were very happy to find out. What do you think about that? I mean, don't you think it was kind of impulsive and for me also very dangerous and wrong to go there and to take over that place in the middle of nowhere and giving the opportunity to the federal government to come after you?
Let me put it to you this way, as transparently as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. I heard rumors that was a potential, and my job was to make sure that everybody followed the rules and the laws, okay? Because that march that everybody went to, that protest to get the redress of grievance that actually exhibited evidence to Grassi and other people within this state that of criminal intent they could not have. So after that march, we were all to go to the fairgrounds, and the Committee of Safety was going to, which had already been enacted, was going to talk to everybody to form a people's grand jury of investigation and to go forward with that. Now, I'm not saying anything against Ammon. He's a great man and everything else, but it opened up an environment of discreditment. Now people were taking advantage of that situation to expose a lot of truths, and it started going the right way that they couldn't defeat. So they had to regroup their efforts and create a discohesion so nobody would work together, and an infighting situation. And they have, whenever they do operations and plans, they think it all through. What if it goes this way? What if it goes that way? Well, we've got these people in place we can spin. We can get them angry at this person. This is why I want Anthony Bosworth in front of me to ask him some serious questions, because he has done contractual duties. He does understand what 3-tier security perimeters mean. And when somebody that should understand disrespects outbound security, my warning flags go up. And when I watch him spinning people that are of lower intelligence and dimensional thinking into an angry footing, like, to put them against you and to argue with you and to create that dissension, that's the first thing you want to remove in those situations. As a reporter, I have to report the news and the information as critically and as soundly as I can, and that's why I'm saying this. I have nothing against Anthony. What I do have is some necessary credibility and understanding of how PSYOPs works, but most people don't. Okay. And an intuitive nature that has served me well. And so, yes, I would like nothing better than to give Anthony a chance to defend himself. Maybe he just messed up like everyone else and couldn't see it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Question.
But he was the last person I seen, because I had to go get some people out of there, just trying to help them because, to see what's going on as a reporter.
Okay. Now, question. What do you think is going to happen in the near future? Because we have I don't think the Oregon situation was something on its own. I think it was somehow pushed and architected by behind. We have now an economic situation that is maybe people don't follow very much, but if you're following, you know that it's coming to a point that could be an economic crash anytime. We know that we have a very important, one of the last defender of our Constitution in this republic, Justice Antonin Scalia, mysteriously found dead. And we have also, of course, something that could be used as an excuse to declare martial law. I mean, we already have a sort of a martial law there in Oregon, in Burns. We had martial law there. I mean, I saw the videos, people that could even drive anymore to their properties without having a rifle pointed at their face and roadblocks. Now, what do you think? What do your guts tell you? What do you think we are facing right now?
I absolutely know what they were trying to maneuver patriots to come to the aid of the 4 that was left, and those 4 were not that intelligent, and some of them had some mental issues and things, easily manipulated. I don't know what the truth was with those people, but they were bait. And the patriots didn't bite on that bait, and they're going forward anyways with the discreditment campaigns. But this is a staging area out here beyond the eyesight of people, and we're not seeing resources leave. We are still receiving resources coming in. As far as the national crisis goes, you've got Russia that's on a moral high ground that is fighting the real terrorists like ISIS and the former Al-Qaeda, which they exposed were directly paid and funded and aided and abetted by not only the United States, by higher commands, but also Israel and then Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth. And since they've gone on the attack on ISIS, they've also taken out some of those assets as well on the dark hats of our government. Now, here's the good news, folks. There's a call sign out there, and I want anybody that works for the government to listen to this very carefully. Santa Claus has come to town. We've checked the list. We've checked it twice. We now know who's naughty or nice. It is time for you to make a decision on what side of the fence you stand on. Do you stand on the side of the fence that your great-great-grandchildren will still be free and independent, the way they're meant to be? Or are you on the side of the dark where your money and your pensions and stuff are more important than that, and may the chains of slavery rest lightly on your wrist? It is time. You have no room to sit on the fence now. This is about a moral high ground, and there is only one crime. Harmful intent to another is a measure of a crime. And if there isn't that, there isn't a crime. What we're seeing now is these agencies are committing harmful intent to another. Your paycheck is not more important than the generations to come and their freedoms. And this is worldwide. There is a revolt against the Illuminati right now. Yeah. The powers that be, the money masters, whatever you want to call them. And the internet has won the information war. And there is nowhere for them to run. Now they're going overt and open, and they don't, and ridiculous in their charges. And it's only going to get worse. We need to step back, smell the roses, start working together and quit infighting, and start thinking about the light of love and light of truth and the defense of that. And if any patriot has harmful intent to another, and it's not in a defensive manner, then what's your gut check? What's going on with you?
Michael, where are you right now? Which part are you still in Oregon, or you're driving back to Idaho?
No, I've only been able to leave twice, and that was just for like 24 hours, and that's it. I've been here the whole time, and I'm sitting on the side of the road heading back to a rancher's place where I'm staying. If anybody out there wants to get any kind of intelligence, maybe you could help them so I don't get inundated with phone calls, but help them go through you to get to me if it's viable enough to, and I'll help in any way I can, because this is about the people of Harney County so that they can live a happy, peaceful life and be productive. That's all I'm about. But you know what? We've got criminals all over the place that want to cause harmful intent to us and our children's future. And we have to be men and women that stand up on our hind legs, and the guys inside the machine will come to your aid. But you're going to have to be brave enough to take the risk of a few hits by standing up with your voices first.
What do you think about Cliven Bundy that he left the county in Nevada, his place, and jumped on the plane, and then he got arrested? I mean, what do you think was a plan too? Some sort of a...
Well, they're taking advantage of situations. They didn't get the big civil war that they wanted, but they just went ahead and went forward like they did. What you're looking at is an insanity of an act that they wanted it so bad they're just doing it anyways. See, they don't have no foundation for if there was to be suits right now in their courts, it would create a new national debt if it ever sees the light of court. It's not going to, folks. They don't care about making mistakes. They have gone rogue. The charges that they've thrown out are the most insane things I've ever seen. Yeah. And when the due process is over, it's gone. You have no right of defense now. They can do anything they want. They can come and pick up any journalist. Hell, they may pick me up today. But I'm not going to be silent. I'm going to stand on the moral high ground. And even those officers that are out there that think they're doing their jobs and stuff, I care about their children. And I'm doing this, gosh, I guess I'm a canary in the minefield. If they come get me, who knows what'll happen. But I know that the good guys in the machine are standing back, trying to help protect certain people as long as they stay on that moral fiber, and that's what I'm trying to do. And what I see with Cliven Bundy is that everybody was checking to make sure he didn't have any arrest warrants, and that is absolute bogus. What we have now is an occupying force within our law enforcement that doesn't care about due process and that has committed themselves to a totalitarian psychopathic insanity that there is no common sense, there is no due process, and we have no promises of any protection now. There's not one of us that are safe now.
Michael, you know what really is amazingly dangerous here as a precedent, We have all these people that they are being detained without bail. Many of them, at least most of them, they had no previous criminal records. Let's talk, for example, I don't know, Santilli, okay? And I'm not a fan. I had my own personal differences of opinions with him. I used to have things that I used to do with him, but I put that aside. I look at this. If he's a journalist and he was there, he didn't rob anybody, he didn't kill anybody, he didn't, do any type of physical violent thing. And let's say even we have these charges of conspiracy, whatever you want to call them, okay? To be without bail, I don't think even if you are a bank robber or a rapist, you still get a bail somehow, okay?
Sure.
I mean, that's for me very disturbing. It almost looks like they're using the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 with the clause of indefinite detention. They please the much they can throw you in jail till they are pleased. What do you think is happening? I mean, don't you think it's very...
That's exactly what's happening. That's what they're doing is they're pulling out the Patriot Act. They can do anything they want. We have no due process left. They have pulled the plug on this and have exposed themselves. The curtain is open, like Alice in Wonderland. It is open. They have exposed themselves, and they don't care about if there's any fallback because they're going to go further, folks. There's nothing we can do about it but stand up on our hind legs and say no. Look. These people in Harney County stood up on their hind legs and had a redress of grievance with open criminality within their court system. It's rampant everywhere. We have to say no. We have to stand up. And they are going to do whatever they want to do. They've already, over the years, how many people have we heard of that have been murdered by criminal elements within our government? My mother-in-law was murdered by criminal elements within this government. I watched Lavoie openly assassinated. And you know what? There was good people inside of the machine. See, the Department of Defense, the Homeland Security allows police forces to use military drones, and if you notice, the timestamps and everything were all changed so that they could protect where that footage come from. Mm-hmm. And that was absolutely an open murder. They flipped him off. They spit on his body. They kicked him. And I'm hearing some other reports that I can't confirm right now that they even did some mutilation of his body.
Oh, my gosh. Listen,
okay.
Question is, you think that video that was released, normally to get something from the federal government, look, for example, the alleged airplane at the Pentagon took 2 years of lawsuits and still we didn't get anything. I mean, why you think they released that video shot by this drone or whatever it was?
White hats.
Why?
White House released that right after the reports from that one gentleman that was in the vehicle that first put his report out. Then Shauna Cox put hers out, and Victoria Sharp put them out, which corresponded, and they had never met each other after the arrest, and it all corresponded with the video, folks. They released the footage. Good guys released that footage because they're sick and tired of it. Just remember that the Uniform Code of Military Justice, there are men that are JAG officers and more that are watching this situation, and it's not just us. I mean, no one wants to fight anymore. We're sick of this. We want to travel the stars. These freak psychopaths that have like a cancer or a virus that have poisoned all of our nations must cease. They must go away. They are the problem. These freaks, these monsters, these criminals.
See, I mean, my point is very simple. We're supposed to also have at that point the ground cameras that they're not released. But even just looking from the point of view from these drones, it's so easy to see without even any type of training or any type of special degrees. You can see very well that this was a man was trying to surrender, and he hands up and decided to shoot him even before he was out of the car. They decided to shoot the car immediately. It was an ambush. Now, my point is, what exactly is going to happen? I mean, it's almost like they're doing on our face. They shot somebody called Blood that was tried to surrender, and the rest of the nation is say, okay, and so what? I mean, what do you think is the end game here?
What the end game is that criminals become dangerous when they know the jig is up, and there's a lot of moral men that are listening to this program right now that work within those agencies. And the only people they have working for them now that actually give them any loyalty are the freaks, the criminals, the pedophiles, the murderers, the monsters within our machine that love to harm somebody, that love these kind of things. There is a war about ready to break out inside of the machine. I've said it for years. You're going to have a cop car against a cop car. There's already a war inside of the machine to remove this cancer, this virus, this monsters. Worldwide, Russia's done a damn fine job removing them. And you know what? The Russian mob became legitimate. They started kicking out anybody that didn't have moral high ground, and they're actually exposing this operation of 9/11 was an inside job. We know it was, and we have all the information to it, just a disgusting level. We have so much information. There's police running amok, murdering people on a daily basis, just about, and that's what they put in these law enforcement positions. And many good men leave. I've watched this for years. Over the last 15 years, it has gotten insane since 9/11.
Question.
It's time.
Michael,
it's time to enforce the laws.
I know that you mentioned before that you had a conversation with Lavoie the day before he was murdered. It was over the phone or in person?
In person.
In person. And what was
Got
about?
up to the top. I didn't even go down. We sat and talked. I also was talking to some people that were intel that was trying to help through the PPN. And they were exposing this discohesion campaign. And, Anthony Bosworth, when you're listening to this, I'm not here to destroy you. I'm not here to throw a bunch of mud in your face, because I don't care if you like me or not. This isn't about liking somebody or not. But you know better. And that's what we exposed. That you were one of the main people spreading that discohesion through and working through Anthony and others that were closely connected to Ammon to give him misadvice. That's what we exposed. And that's an affirmative, 100%. And why were you doing that? That's what we told Lavoie, and Lavoie said that must stop. And those people that were coming there to aid and support were going to come in. I can't say who it was. I'm just a reporter. But I have to, protect my sources. But within 3 days, that situation would have been corrected, and that there would have been proper communication for all patriots, outbound and inbound, and there wouldn't have been room for them to do anything like they did. They had to close the door quick. And I suspect it may just been a coincidence, but I suspect they had an order to make sure that Lavoie didn't make it out of it. And they tried to open fire and kill everyone, really, because when they first stopped him, Payne put his hands out and said, "Hey, there's women and children in the car," and they opened fire. Lavoie was they were peppering the vehicle as it spun down the road.
Wow.
They didn't care about who was in the vehicle, and when he was coming up the roadblock, they didn't give him a chance to slow down as he was starting to, going, "Oh, what do I do?" They were opening fire on that vehicle. And he jumped out saying, "Shoot me," to draw fire away from that vehicle. And hell, after they laid him down, they mowed through the back of it. And the only reason that those two girls are alive right today is because of his gear in the back of it. And you know what? We're never going to see all that gear that was in the back with bullet holes all through it. And that vehicle was Swiss cheese, and we know for a fact it was. And we're never going to see that vehicle. Okay, these people committed serious crimes. Those guys, and they had a party, the Burns, with Sheriff Ward, Saturday night after Lavoie's funeral. They had a party and stuck it in everybody's face, and it was a private party with the people that have family members that are invested in the crimes out here, laughing and joking and celebrating and stuff, and trying to egg the patriots on to get a fight going, and they didn't get it. We've stood on the moral high ground to try to there's a lot of good officers that are behind the scenes. I mean, who wants to have firefights in war? Why can't we have due process? Well, they won't allow it because they're guilty. They're guilty of so many crimes. We all know it, and we still sit back and take it. and we're going to have to stand up on our hind legs in our counties and get constitutional sheriffs, but you're going to have to come to their aid. You're going to have to form a real committee of safety. And if you want to find out how to really do it, you can contact me, and I'll tell you, lay it right out, just like our founding fathers. And it's simple. It isn't complicated. You just have to give aid and support to the people of moral high ground to expose the criminality within your county, and then have a court process to just like any other court process with a jury. And if they're found guilty, then they're arrested. And who's going to arrest them? The people are going to arrest them. That's what we have to do, or it is all lost.
Michael, I know that you're in pretty good health, right? I mean, you're doing fine. How old are you?
I'm 55, I think.
Okay. Did you do a blood test, some sort of are you okay? Cholesterol, heart attack, anything going on with you? You feeling fine?
Oh, yeah, I feel fine. I'm one of those people that, that don't get sick or anything else. One of the things that I would never commit suicide or anything else like that, but I can tell you right now that if they tried to do anything like that to me, heads will turn. I have vanilla envelopes from people, and I'll use one name, Officer Uxley in Boise and Ada County was arrested. Well, not arrested, but he arrested somebody that was of high official nature in a compromising situation with somebody. That's all I'll say. But that was documented. They took his flight status away because he was an air guard within 12 hours. And they destroyed that guy's career and threatened him. But here's something to think about. I've worked the armories of a lot of people, including guys in the DEA, and they've been so sick about stuff that they've given me a lot of information to come out at a certain time, and I made sure it's safe. And I don't even know where some of it is, but I got friends inside the machine that knows where it is. So guys, if you want to go ahead and pull that rabbit out of the hat, go right ahead. But remember, the last time you did it, it almost blew up on you.
Okay, Mike, at least I want to say thank you for all this very important information, and I want to give you one more time the chance to remind how people can contact you. Give the website where can you reach you out.
Okay, we own the Voice of Idaho, TVOI News. You can reach us through that, or you can email me at mgundoc@gmail.com. And if you want to try to help us financially a little bit, we don't get any monies in. We get a lot of views, but no money right now. Go to our website and throw us $1 or $2. Anything will help. We have a donation box on there and a PayPal account. Just throw your prayers out there, and just realize that it's not all over. These people have lost. It's just we got to get through this attitude adjustment, and we need to be smart. And always remember, if it isn't on the moral high ground, don't do it.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I want to thank you. And I want to say again, this show, it is about information, and I want to give everybody the same opportunity to talk about things, okay? We mentioned several people in this interview with Michael Emery, and it's my duty to give them a chance to say their side. And then, of course, I would like, because it's always about who said the last word. For me, the last word is going to be said by the listeners. You decide. All I can do is give the microphone to people. And if Mr. Michael Emery and, of course, Anthony Bosworth, they want to be 1 hour together on the same time on the show to share what's going on, what happened, or what they think may happen, this is a show exactly to do that. I invite them both. First, I would like to invite Anthony Bosworth, that I talked to him several times when I had him on the show, for other issues, to be here and say his side. And then, to be fair, I would like to give everybody on the same time, if they agree, to be here to at least, sometimes you need to have talking directly to the other person and bring facts and evidence. And the only reason why, not because I want to divide, but if we made a mistake, or I say, if they made a mistake, I wasn't there, we need to understand what mistakes were made. And if there is something that is wrong, must be investigated, it's our duty to know what's going on. That's it. My only job is to bring you the facts and the truth. Meanwhile, I want to thank you, everybody, and I want to remind you, this is not a hobby. This is not something I do for fun. I tell you, there are no benefits really besides try to feel good at night and say I did what I could to stop evil. And I tell you, it's becoming more and more a dangerous act. If you want to help out the show, I tell you, you can do it very easily. As you know, as you heard before from my other guest, independent media, we don't really get much here. Okay, we are not like NPR. We do not suck your tax dollar, but we can ask you. If you like what we're doing, you can support us. You can go to zanna.us, www.zanna.us, and download any of my songs. That's one of the things I do for a living, for 99 cents. And just doing that, not only you get my songs, but also you can support this broadcast. Thank you very much, and God's willing, I will talk to you next Sunday. You'll be listening to luca-zanna, and this was Love, Guns, and Freedom.